The Dragon Coke is the way. I agree.
See, this is why I love you, Joey.
True, bro. Dude, Joey's such a cultured man, bro. And they can hear us, by the way. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Predcast. As of course, you guys know that we have a very cultured cast. We're gonna actually be going over a couple spicy things. We're definitely gonna talk a little bit about matchmaking. And we might actually dive into some other subjects as far as things that are coming up in the game. Our main guest, Jshredz, has quite a bit of details, so we'll see what we can actually get out of him. But before we go too deep, let's get our introductions out of the way. First and foremost, this is episode, what was the number? I literally just asked it and I forgot it.
36.
Episode 36. Bro, I'm horrible at these, bro. So, right? Episode, hey, right? Episode 36. And yeah, so if we could, for episode 36, let's go ahead and do our introductions in this specific fashion, if we could. I'm actually going to go with, let's do Jshredz, Efsixx, Joey, Bearded, and then myself. Tell people a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
What's up? I'm Jshredz. I'm the senior manager for live production and game operations at Omeda, which is a big wordy title that means I care about player experience. So anything in the game that positively or negatively impacts how you think about the game, everything that's wrapped around all the awesome design and the awesome art that our team is doing. That's the kind of stuff that I care about. So I work a lot with the data teams, QA, engineers, everyone up and down to try and make sure that we understand what people are enjoying and what they're not enjoying and how we can do the good things more good and the bad things less bad.
Spicy.
Right, so what I heard is we're going to get you on more often to get
Dude, all the time, man.
more, to get people come on. Hey,
you found one of the few like US based folks.
That's true.
Easy for me, man. I'm in North Carolina. I can do this whenever.
All right, no, yeah, we'll get you on more often. Have the community just scream at you like, "Hey, we're having this issue," or we're liking this, or we're loving that. So that's awesome.
Bro, and he's got the instruments in the background, and he's into racing. I mean, this dude's nuts.
Now we know where the word "shreds" comes from. He's over there shredding the guitar. We got it now.
Drew, go ahead. There, Efsixx.
Hey guys, what's up? My name is Efsixx. Some of you guys probably seen me before, but I usually just content create. So most of the time I'm streaming over on Twitch or Kick. And then I make some hero overview videos on YouTube. Not as spicy as Joey's with the builds, but they do go over all the stuff that nobody really likes to talk about, like just macro and micro stuff. So if you guys like that, I'm over there as well.
All right. And guys, for those who don't know, Efsixx is now a permanent host on the show Predcast here with us. So congrats on that. Thanks for coming out, man. I'm so excited to see where we go with you. And congrats on hitting 75 followers on Kick, man.
We
fucking grinding.
Nice.
Got that sub button opened up now.
But I appreciate you guys having me. Can't wait to see where this goes as well.
For sure. Everybody in the chat, throw out a GG Efsixx. Welcome him in a Swiss style, And Joey, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just yours surely back on the podcast. I'm a content creator over YouTube. I do daily commentary videos, and I do occasionally live stream over on YouTube. Just I don't do the live stream on Twitch and Kick and all that stuff. But outside that, I occasionally do some other kind of guide videos. So like for example, the big matchmaking blog that was posted that was end up being a lot of great info, but it can be a little intimidating when you see all that block of text. So I actually did like a quick overview, summary explanation of it, and it's actually kind of cool for this particular video because I actually went and talked to Jshredz to get his input, because last thing I want to do is misinform the audience on what I'm talking about. So I want to make sure what I was talking about makes sense and I wasn't misinforming. So definitely thank you again, Jshredz, for double checking my work on that.
Gotcha, dude.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Is I, the Beat Wolverine, your Michigan Wonder, and excited to have this episode. Jshredz, again, thanks for reaching out to me and wanting to get this episode going, and I can't wait to talk matchmaking because I know you've dealt a lot with it in the this whatever month or however long you've been grinding hard to get this fixed and taken care of. So I'm excited to see where we started and where we're going to end up, and I can't wait to talk more about that. But before we get into that, let's get Windu introduced here, and we'll jump right into it.
Spicy. What's up, guys? I'm Windu, also known as Windu the Mace. I mainly do predecessor content, gaming as of late, and then besides that, I dive into a little bit of Star Wars stuff on a different channel that I got. But all in all, I am super excited for this episode of the Predcast, to be honest with you guys, because besides the matchmaking, and I actually want to just dive into this specific subject, total left turn for everybody. I want to talk about how Jshredz actually got into the world of development, because I got a little bit of a teaser of this behind the scenes, and I was like, no shot, bro. I was like, go tell us a little bit about how you even got into this world and what led from there.
Yeah, so when I say that Paragon changed my life, I mean that entirely literally. So I went to school for biomedical engineering, went to grad school, got into consulting, did that for a couple years. Was playing this other third-person MOBA Smite in my free time and saw advertisements for saw advertisements for Paragon and said, "Wow, this looks like everything that Smite was, but better in all the ways. I'm sure I'm gonna love this game." Turns out I did. Started spending all my free time, playing the game, thinking about the game, talking to people on Reddit or Discord or whatever about the game. And through that, built some connections at Epic, got to know a couple of the developers, flown out for a couple of events, did the Aurora Hero launch, if anyone wants to go find that old community corner from like 5 years ago. And then they reached out in late 2017 and said, "Hey, we got this position. We're looking for problem solvers. We know you've got kind of a big engineering problem solving background. You wanna take a look?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So joined Epic in January of 2018 on my very first Wednesday ever working at Epic on the game that I loved so much and that forced this wild career change. We had an all hands meeting and announced that we were shutting down Paragon. Obviously, it went from being one of the coolest weeks of my life to a pretty rough one, seeing this thing that so many people within Epic that cared so much about it and put so much hard work into it, seeing it shut down. It was nice to hear internally that we were going to release the assets, but no one really thought anything was going to come of that at the time. And then I said, you know what, let's ride this out. This Fortnite thing looks pretty cool. So I spent the next 5 years working at Epic on Fortnite, primarily with a little bit of Rocket League and Fall Guys, until April of last year when I played an online test for Predecessor. And I went downstairs at the end of the weekend and I told my wife, I said, I think I'm leaving Epic. I think I have to go work for these guys. And I hit Robbie up and I started hounding him and I said, let's make something happen. You guys have something special here. You clearly have an unbelievable team and you're making magic with a small group of people. I just have to know like what's in the sauce. What are you guys doing that's so different and so special for such a small group? Kept hounding him until eventually he said yes and then joined the Predecessor team in August or September of last year. Been there just shy of a year.
Bro, I would have been so damn heartbroken if the first day that I started was the day that they shut down. That sucks, bro.
It was rough because I think there's no doubt that Epic made a lot of mistakes and they were open about having made a lot of mistakes with Paragon. They wish they did some things different. They wish some of the things that they knew later in the game they had known early in development, and maybe things might have been different. But the one thing I think a lot of people forget, there was some hate about it closing, and I understand that because a lot of people really cared about it, but there was an immensely talented group of people at Epic working on Paragon, and it was their passion project, right? It was the thing that they had spent years of their lives and careers working on to try and make this awesome thing. So it was really tough. That being said, falling from, we didn't have to let anyone go, and falling from that into the ride that Fortnite became, like it, worked out okay in the end. Obviously, everyone there built a lot of really great experience, but so few people in this industry get a second chance to take a shot at the thing that they really believe in and the game or the product that they're so passionate about. And having the opportunity to do that at Omeda, to be able to learn from what Epic did right and what Epic did wrong, and because we really believe there's magic in this thing. We've got a long way to go and a lot of work to do, but getting a chance to go back and try it again and see if we can get it right, like that's just so exciting. It's an opportunity that if I didn't jump at it, I would have spent the rest of my life wondering, what I could have done if I had been part of it.
I'm still like just flabbergasted. Like I don't know what it's like in the developer world, not at all. But I'm just flabbergasted to think if I was in the position of working with this AAA company, to then just like, you know what, I'm just going to drop down. I'm going to step down from this AAA company. I'm just going to work with an indie dev company that like you really don't know the future of it. Like they could, in a sense, shut down like Paragon did. Luckily, you've lasted longer here than you did with Paragon, so that's good. We know that you're not the bad egg.
had so many. Do you know how many people at Epic made that joke when I was leaving? They're like, "What are you doing? These poor people have done something so great, and you're going to show up and kill it." So, I mean,
I think that says a lot, though. That says a lot. What for us outsiders looking in, I think that says a lot about Omeda. Like for somebody like you, and even Sundown when Sundown was here, for you guys to leave these companies that are, you know, pretty much you guys. I don't want to say you haven't made, but like it's your future is not looking so unanswered or whatever. Like you can kind of have an idea, but coming to Omeda, like we don't know what's going on, we don't know where it's going to go, but we, you know, it's got potential. And I think, you know, seeing what Robbie and Smokey are doing and being able to pull you guys from a AAA company, that says a lot about them as a team, I think.
Well, I gotta, you know, like I said, it was the reverse. I was hounding Robbie until he would hire me. I was like, dude, we gotta do this. We gotta do this. Like, let's figure out a way to make it work. You know, obviously I'm gushing about how awesome this team is, but I gotta throw one more shout out to specifically Robbie and Smokey and Fringe. They've done a lot of things right with this game. Obviously, they laid the groundwork for something I think is really cool. The one thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking, or maybe just don't even realize because you can't see internally, they hire so well. You know, obviously they let my sorry butt in, and I'm grateful for that. But the quality of talent, and I was just having a chat with someone else on the team about this exact thing yesterday. The quality of talent up and down Omeda that the team has been able to pull and hire from, that are really excited about this, coming from within the industry, Epic and Ubisoft and Jagex and, you know, Activision, wherever. Right, we're managing to convince some unbelievably talented folks that this is going to be something really awesome, and we're going to learn a lot, and it's going to take some time, and you know there are going to be struggles. But I just believe so strongly in the potential of this team to be able to do great things.
Awesome. I'm excited now. I'm just more hyped, ready to go. Like. When's full release? That's all I want to know. I'm ready to go. Let's get it going.
As soon as we're ready. And just to take a moment too, that's a real answer. Like it sounds a little glib, and it sounds like you'll get it when you get it. But you know, we're going to go through console release. We're going to wait and see what resonates and what doesn't resonate, and what we need to do while we're in early access on console. And we're going to make a really honest assessment of how far away we are from being ready. The whole reason we've taken early access so slow from a marketing perspective, and we haven't spent a dime yet, which kudos to the community team for the work that they've done to build a big community without any marketing budget. You only get one chance at a first impression. And I think that's something that Paragon really struggled with. Is a lot of huge streamers tried Paragon before it was ready. A lot of people in general tried Paragon before it was ready. Ooh. You know, we've got this huge audience of people that could be playing this game. They could be Smite players or League players or Overwatch players, or maybe they've never played anything in this genre, but they would really love this game. We don't want them to know about this game until we're ready to show off what we think is the best version of this. So we're going to be deliberate. We want to get to free to play and full release as soon as we can, because you know, it'd be awesome to start really growing this community, but we want to make sure that what we're doing it right, and that we're not rushing things for the sake of rushing things, that we're really focused on making sure that we get it right the first time, so people's first impression is a really positive one.
All right, so I want to make sure I understood what you said there in the very beginning. So the timeline we're looking at is we're going to do a console release, still early access, and then we're going to do a full release. So we got 2 releases coming up actually that can help boost this. That's how I understood what you were saying?
We haven't fully finalized plans, but Robbie's talked about the fact that we're already in certification for Sony. Let's be honest, we're not ready for a full release right now, but we are going through the process of prepping ourselves for PlayStation, and then soon after for Xbox. So our primary goal is making sure that PlayStation is good, that everything works the way that it's supposed to. And then we can start to say, okay, what are the last big hurdles that we have, or are there things that we didn't even think about that have come up with the console release and getting to a bigger audience? And then how can we make sure that we're doing that right before we really, really, pull out the war chest?
All right. No, I like that. I like the fact that we're not, because the way it felt for me outside of looking in, playing Fault, playing Pred early on, it felt like that these teams are going to make that perfect game first on PC, and then once it's finally perfect on PC, then we're going to port it to console. Once we port to console, then we're full. Then here we are. We're at full release and we're good to go. So the fact that we're able to go, we're going to go into console even before full release potentially. We're obviously not finalized, but that's a potential option going into it. That's going to bring a wave of players. That's going to help increase matchmaking and that issue, what's going on. So that's going to be good. But then we can use that as a marketing scheme. But then we can also use the full release as a marketing scheme to get more people and advertise the game. I'm all about it. I think that's great. I think instead of just trying to put all your eggs in one basket and like, hey, here's console full release, and we're going to try to work it all together. I think breaking them up in both would be great.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't have any final dates, and like with all of this, we're trying to make sure that we're doing it the smart way. But we have runway that we're not pushing. We don't have anyone breathing down our necks saying you got to get this out, you got to get full release or free to play or whatever out ASAP. We want to make sure that with our dev team we're building good and sustainable stuff. That's why we're taking the work for the new UI now. Right, it's slowed down a lot of feature releases for other things that I know people are excited about, but it's laying the groundwork for us to be in a much healthier place so that we don't have to scramble as much as we get, through console release and start looking to the future.
Awesome. I'm excited. I get every time you say something, I get more excited. Let's go, guys. But by the end of this episode, we're gonna have full release. That's what's gonna happen. That's how it's gonna happen.
Can you imagine that shit? It's like, you want a teaser? Bam!
All the leagues, son.
Yo, but I'll say this. I'm so glad that we got a chance to talk to Demande and Jshredz here specifically these past few weeks. Because I, for the longest, thought if you want to be a part of a gaming studio, you have to know how to code or you have to be in marketing. I thought that was it. Like, if you don't know how to work the computer and if you don't know how to sell it, you're done. And hearing all these versatile roles, and basically, I mean, you kind of summed it up as problem fixer, right, Jshredz? Like that shit is just mind blowing.
I mean, I don't know anything about anything. I'm thankfully surrounded by brilliant people who know everything about what they're doing. But what I am lucky enough to get the opportunity to do is work with lots of different people. And I did this at Epic and trying to apply the same thing at Omeda, is go learn from smart people and ask stupid questions and try and slowly build up a small understanding of what they're doing and help link folks together to, do some cross-team work that they might not otherwise know to do. Right? I just kind of beat down doors and help facilitate handshakes. I think it's a great point that you make. I had the same misconception before I started to get to know the Epic guys, and then especially before I joined. We're a self-published studio, so obviously we have marketing, but there's community and there's art, not just for modeling, but for digital art, the website, finance, analytics. I know Joe and I have been talking a little bit about how deep the analytics world goes in game development. What are called producers, kind of similar to producers in film, but they're functionally project managers that are focused on teams as opposed to just individual projects. Producers really run the show up and down game dev, and you don't need a formal experience for it. Obviously, I went to school for something entirely different. Some of the smartest people I've ever worked with had a high school diploma, but went into game dev and worked their way to find what they're really good at. Now they're directors at large companies, large development studios. So I would encourage anyone that's interested in game development, just Google game development jobs and just spend 5 minutes looking at how many different ones there are. There's just such an enormous wealth of opportunities and different ways, HR and people management. I mean, there are so many different things that a game studio needs, and it's one of the flattest companies that I've or industries that I can think of in terms of how many different people are all doing completely different jobs than each other, and everyone has to work together to keep the whole ship running.
Nice.
It's good to hear.
Jack in chat, because what you just said, asked, is the console side of the game self-published?
So with a console game, obviously it's being hosted through the platform itself, so the PlayStation Store, the Microsoft Store, whatever. But in terms of so I think it's probably helpful to talk a little bit very briefly about what publishing means. So there are really two big sides of game development. The first is development, so those are the people that are doing the art and the coding. They're making the little .exe files that you actually interact with. And then there's publishing, which is marketing and support and lining up everything that goes into releasing a game, keeping it updated and everything like that. Studios are more and more able to and starting to become self-published. So rather than relying on the Activision Blizzards of the world and coming to them and saying, I've got a game, can you give me money? And then also you've got connections with Target and Walmart, whatever, and get our box in your stores. We handle everything else. So all of the marketing is on us, all of the customer support on us. All of the releases and the maintenance and everything like that is on us. So we're both sides of the house. Epic Games is similar. They shifted from being just a developer when they were Gears of War to being a full publisher and developer in-house for Paragon and Fortnite. And that's starting to become more and more common as these self-publishing tools are getting better and better.
Got you.
All right.
So as far as I guess the answer, just to kind of simplify here for understanding. So in that case, it's going to be all controlled by the studio. It's not necessarily like there's a third party that's going to be in control of everything as far as pushing it to console and whatnot.
What publishers offer a studio is often finance. They basically say, we'll pay for the whole development. You guys are the programmers and the artists and the producers, and we'll pay for development, but in exchange, we take a cut of all of your sales. So a publisher generally doesn't have developers in-house. They go out and find and finance and say, okay, we'll pay you to do the thing that you want to do. We get a cut. Because we're fully financed and because we are able to do this, we get 100% of everything that we make and we keep it all in-house. But that means that we do our own marketing. We have to build our own brand deals. We have to make our own connections. We've got to run our own customer support, do our own releases, all of that stuff. So we're really running both sides of the house.
Okay. Nice.
I see. Now, Efsixx, Joey, do you guys have any specific questions you guys want to ask him, like about his history, his experience, whether it be on the Rocket League side, Epic, anything?
I don't have too much about that because most of my questions were ready for like the MMR, obviously. But
hit me if you want to hit me. Unless Joe's got a
before we go there, because we're gonna jump into that. Rocket League. My question for Rocket League: mouse and keyboard or controller?
Oh wait, hold on. I got an Easter egg for y'all.
Nice.
Dang, what a throwback.
All right.
So salute in the chat, bro. Hit him with that 07. Come on, guys.
I got my Paragon mouse. I'm all swagged out.
Man,
Damn.
That is
coolest
awesome.
guy in the room.
Yeah, no, that's a minor flex that would only apply to this room, but at least
This is the time for sure.
I want to imagine if
Alright.
there's a PlayStation 5 controller all custom mounts, just how cool that would be.
Oh, I want that too.
Dude, I want the Pred merch. Pred merch when?
Yeah.
Give me-
Demande in chat says Pred DualSense when?
Yes, bro. What color would it be? What do you think?
That's a great question.
Does Predecessor have a color?
Black
We've got our logo, but it's a largely it's black and gold. I think similar color scheme to what Paragon was. I don't know if that's going to be our final color scheme. It looks clean in my opinion, but we'd have to see. I don't know. I want more merch too. They shipped us some stuff for the holidays. That's where everyone got all our nice hoodies and my Omeda shirt and all that. Super great quality stuff. So if we can do anything like that and make a little bit of cash on the side, that'd be great.
Hell yes.
Silver can be a good color. Like I just sent you like a kind of picture of you remember like the PlayStation 4 silver controllers, like just how that's painted on the controller. I think that look fit the predecessor theme really well potentially. Just a thought.
I mean, I'd pay money for more Pred stuff.
Just in general, Pred stuff is good stuff.
Right, Super Devo in the chat says PlayStation 5 side plates of Predecessor.
Oh,
like there's so much customization. Like even on the DualSense itself, that front the bottom faceplate that's super easily interchangeable. Just I'll rock this in purple and then replace the black with some Predecessor.
I mean,
design.
I'd have to hound our Sony rep and then our Microsoft reps to see what we can do.
Sounds like you're the guy.
Man, that'd be cool. That's
Jshredz for president. Let's go.
Hashtag more work on Wednesday. Anyway, Joey, did you want to ask him anything specific about anything he said so far?
Just kind of like a question that I've been liking asking devs is like you kind of talk a little bit about Rocket League, Paragon, and kind of how you got into all of that. But I talk about like a little bit before that, like kind of like childhood, like what some of the games that like you kind of grew up as a child, and just how you just got into gaming at a young age and just in general.
I learned how to type on a keyboard by typing in cheat codes in Age of Empires 2. So like, how do I turn this on? And cheesesteak jimmies for those old
my dude said fans. No fog of war. Okay, I see you, bro.
Yep. So
I see you.
So Age of Empires 2, Diablo 2, StarCraft. I grew up, I'm a kid of the very early 90s, so I grew up during the dial-up transition when games were just starting to get online. You were just starting to be able to do some online gaming. Then I kind of tailed off a little bit. I mean, I played a lot of PlayStation 2 things on my own, but not really competitive gaming until late high school into college when I started playing Battlefield and Call of Duty online, things like that. Discovered Smite in grad school, played the heck out of that. Discovered Paragon, said this is way better. Threw Smite in the trash. Paragon's my new best friend. And kept on playing until it shut down. Played a little bit of Fortnite when I was working on Fortnite. Went back to Smite for a while, but honestly, I'm just so happy to have Predecessor now. It really scratches all the itches for me. I love sports and competition and teamwork, and being able to do all that from the comfort of my nice chair and reclining with a cool beverage is just Fred just makes me so happy to play.
Nice,
bro. And
how you?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so I was gonna say, how about how you got into the guitar and drums that's in the background? So when you started checking out that,
I've been playing drums since I was a little kid. I'm primarily a drummer, or at least I have spent most of my life primarily as a drummer. Did competitive drumline and all that stuff for a while, but I've always loved Motown and soul and funk music. And at some point I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go to Guitar Center and I'm just going to buy myself a $100 bass guitar. And I did, and I loved it and stuck with it. And, as far as hobbies go, it's not the most wallet burning thing. I get a used instrument every couple years because they look so pretty, and it's, it's fun to get new stuff. But it's, it's how I cool down and unwind. It's a great way to just kind of turn off my brain.
All right. So does that mean that you're a Narbash main then?
I'm the original Rampage, man. I'm the OG.
The OG Rampage.
I'm the OG Rampage. He might have thought different, but he was wrong. I played in the very, very early competitive scene of Paragon, and kind of cut my teeth playing Rampage. Still love him to death. Towards the latter parts of Paragon, I was playing a lot of Carry, a lot of Murdoch.
All right.
Yeah, Rampage is always gonna have my heart.
A 1v1, who wins, you and Ace?
Oh, it's not even close. I'd crush him.
Wow.
Look, I'm not saying I'm the best player at the studio. I'm like the 6th or 7th best person at the studio. I'm like 2100 on Omeda.city. I didn't play a whole ton because of some health issues and what for a while, but I'm picking back up into things. But dang. I mean, I used to be pretty good at this game. I'm kind of washed now, but I can still hang with them.
Nice.
By the way, shout out to Jshredz and Demande, because he is in the chat, because they did join us for the last hero reveal where we hosted our customs. And, you know, viewers got to engage with them. They got to game, just kind of chill out. Hashtag, don't work on Wednesdays. If you know, you know. But yeah, like, just a major shout out, man. Like, just the fact that you guys were willing to throw down, and even just like right now, the competitiveness of it, you're just like, I'll 1v1 any day of the week, bro. Try me. Let's go. I love that shit.
I mean, there are people like Demande's going to beat me in jungle 9 times out of 10, but I beat him in our matches when I was playing Rampage. I just want to call that out. But like, you know, it's great. I got to say, like, you know, and we've done this a little bit, not we, other people in Omeda have put together teams. Like, it is a fearsome level of competition in those internal play tests. I mean, you know, it's hard for me because I'm playing on 120 ping, and that's always my excuse. But you know, our Thursday play test, when we're play testing new builds, you know, the top lobby for that is just like it's unbelievable talent levels, and I'm just trying to keep up.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice to see one of those games live.
All right, where's those recordings? Release them after the build is out.
You want to talk matchmaking? Is it time?
I'm okay to go into it. I can see Efsixx just like over there, like biting his nails. He's like, bro, come on.
Not that ready, but I am excited.
So ask him one of the matchmaking things that you were gonna ask him. I'm curious. What are the type of questions you got?
So my very first one was we looked like I took a very like in-depth look on the graph multiple times, and like one of the big things was a lot of like my viewers just wanted to be like, can you like simplify that into like a way where like the simplest of people could understand? Because a lot of them are saying like, hey, we looked at like pretty much everything, but like we just couldn't grasp like the entire detail of what was there's a couple things to talk about. So first, I think it's really important to talk about matchmaking really being the meshing of two different things. So the first thing is MMR, or matchmaking rating, and that's a number that we're trying to assign to you that gives you a rough sense of where your skill stacks up. And really what it is it's a number that should give you a mathematical chance of winning any given game. Now, solving this is super hard. It's a super hard problem. It's not just a hard problem for games. I mean, for any American basketball fans, like, look at the Brooklyn Nets, like the amount of talent that team put together, and they still totally flopped. Or like, you know, for the European fans, PSG hasn't made it past the first round of the Champions League. Like, even when you take people and you think you've got a great history of how well you think they're going to perform, when it comes time and you put them with people, even a bunch of great players together are not going to play that well, because they just don't mesh in their styles. So matchmaking is always going to be super hard because people aren't robots. They don't perform exactly the same way every time.
That's why you play the game.
That's why you play the game. So MMR is trying to approximate roughly where we think you'll be. So we know that a 2000 MMR is in almost all cases going to stomp a 1200 MMR, but a 1650 and a 1675, like it's more or less of a coin flip. So the second part of the problem is matchmaking itself. And that's the process of taking 10 people, putting them in a match and mixing them on two teams and saying, go have fun. And what we have found is that for the most part, our matchmaking rating, or MMR, is pretty good. It's really predictive. And when I talked about the 93% accuracy, I know there were some questions about that. That doesn't mean we know the winner 93% of the time. That means if we look at a game and we say it should be 60-40 based on this MMR difference, or it should be 55-45, we're right in that guess 93% of the time. You look at all games that should have been 60-40 and all games that should have been 55-45. And we're pretty good at guessing roughly how fair a match is going to be. Now, most of the big games that we've made and most of the work that we're still doing right now is how do you pull those 10 people together that we think are fair, that doesn't take an hour to match make, and then how do we mix them up into two teams? So we had a bug in how players are being mixed between teams. We get 10 players and then all the high ones would end up over here and the low ones would end up over here. That was a bug that lived within our external provider. So we use an external matchmaker just because it exists and it's it's solid, but obviously we recognize it just doesn't hold up to the kinds of demands we want to put in the quality bar we want to set, which is why we're working on our own new matchmaker. But we discovered a bug in that code and worked with that provider directly to be able to fix it, and that's made a huge difference. And that's that first big drop in that first graph in the chart. We basically cut the gap between players by like 2/3 overnight. We found that one bug. It was much wider than we thought it was. It was almost impossible for us to see directly, except thanks to all the community members that found matches and raised them and sent them, our way. We were able to look and say, this is just not performing the way that we expect the code should perform. Able to find that bug and fix it. The further improvements that we're looking to make, other than just a whole new matchmaker, are around tuning. How do we handle parties? How do we, make sure that people are getting the fairest match that they can without waiting way too long? So the second chart is about our party adjustment systems. So we've been able to look and see, if you're in a group of 5, that you're going to play better in that group of 5. Oftentimes you've got Discord, or each other, everyone's picking their favorite roles and their favorite heroes. We know there's an advantage to playing in a group, and we know that the advantage gets bigger the bigger group you're in. What we did not plan for is that it's almost kind of the opposite at the low levels. That we were really, by applying kind of a flat modifier and saying you're a group of 5, multiply your MMR by some number, we were really punishing early groups that just didn't have that coordination. A group of 5 brand new players, they can talk on Discord, but that doesn't mean they're going to be better. But a group of 5 players that are at the high end of the MMR charts, like they're going to stomp basically no matter what. So what we've done and what we rolled out in the patch on Tuesday is a new system that kind of scales based not only on the size of your party, but also what your MMR is. So we're not going to be impacting those groups of new players. We're not going to be giving them a big boost and making it really unfair, but we're going to be giving an even stronger boost to the teams at the far end of the spectrum. It's going to make their matchmaking times longer because their MMR is going to be way off the charts. But we think we kind of have to do it to make sure that we are finding the best opponents we can. We're not always going to find good opponents. Sometimes you just get the top 5 players on the leaderboard and they're grouped and no one's going to win that game. It's just kind of life, right? Sometimes teams just aren't going to be fair, and it sucks, and we want to find more ways around that. But regardless of how many players we have now, or we have 1,000 times as many players, or we become the biggest game in the history of the world, right? It doesn't matter. There's always going to be a 1% at the top, and they're always going to struggle, because you start to get, as the further you get on that bell curve, the bigger the gaps are between people, right? The more meaningful an extra 50 MMR or 100 MMR means between 2 people, and the harder it is to try and find fair matches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Real quick, as we're talking about that, huge shout out to you, Jshredz, because I know the if you know is we don't work on Wednesdays, but you are working all the time. I'm seeing you actively in Discords on the weekends. Getting people are adding you. Hey, here's this match. Check this one out. And getting all those data points on the weekend, saying, hey, you're going to pass this on a Monday. I've seen you do that. I've seen you go to actual other people's Discords, like, hey, to explain what you just explained with the 93% situation. I literally watched you go to another Discord and jump in there and explain it to other people, instead of just hey, reverting them to the predecessor Discord to get the information, or reverting them to here to do that. You actually went out there, you go out of your way to do more, and it's greatly appreciated, at least by me. I see it, and I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. But I mean, if we're being honest, it's one of the things that I kind of realized in the last couple of months, because it's not like we're blind to sentiment. The whole dang dev team watches Predcast just about every week, and for the minions, and we see the Twitter and Reddit. The thing that I realized that I did not do a very good job of is, I spent all my time focusing internally and just like, okay, we're going to build this thing and it's going to be better, and then everyone's going to know it's better. And realistically, it's worth taking some extra time to go out in the community and put a face to things and give people an opportunity to engage in chats, rather than just trusting that we're doing it right. Even though there's not been anything that we've changed about how hard we're working. The team is working unbelievably hard and they're really making immense progress. But one of the things that I really, honestly, let's be real, I failed on in the first 6-8 months of doing this, is I needed to be a lot more public and a lot more visible. And if I'm focused on player experience, it's not enough to just be trying to make things better. engage with people and tell them that you're making it better, they're just going to get frustrated and give up, and that's not great. So trying to do a better job, trying to spend more time. It does take hours, right? Writing the blog was most of my week on top of a full week's worth of work. So there's a reason that I'm certainly not going to volunteer anyone else to do it. And I have to give an unbelievable shout out again to our community team for the amount of work that they do to be in the community, in addition to the work that they're doing on the marketing side. But it is so important, especially as a small dev, to make sure that the community understands that, we're not some giant soulless corporation. We're a bunch of people who really care about doing it right. And that being said, no amount of working really, really hard in silence is going to help people understand just how hard we're working. And it's important to make sure that we're getting out there and saying, yes, the things that you don't like, we don't like too. We're trying to make it better, and it may take us a little bit, but the team's working really hard. So I'm just trying to be at least a source and a face so that I can filter some of that for the rest of the dev team.
No, that is perfect, and that's a great segue to the tweet that Windu posted earlier this week. We got a message in our last Predcast. Let me pull it up real quick. Message in our last Predcast, and it says, low-key, having the devs participate in the Predcast is saving the reputation and confidence in the studio. They used to be very transparent and open, then suddenly went super quiet like Paragon devs did, and it shook the confidence of the community. Now they're starting to shine again. GG, amazing series and cast, Windu, Bearded, and Joey. And that wasn't, we weren't shooting that at the devs in a negative way. It was bringing light to, because there was a time that they kind of went dark, and we did see that there was it looked like we were kind of like poking at you guys, and we wouldn't mean to. We're actually bringing light to appreciating that you guys are getting more active. Because like you said, you started off that first 6 to 8 months, you felt you could have done better, and there was a time that we did, like, we were watching Smokey create the game live on Twitch, and we were getting interaction, and then it's like, then it went to a situation to where it kind of went down. It
was almost a year of quietness. Like, everybody was like, is Predecessor still a thing? And I would be like, I tested it last week. I don't know what's going on, to be real with you.
Right. I mean, so that's really, we hear everyone saying we need more content faster. We need this out. We need that. We need rank done. We need new UI. We need hero masteries. We need this other thing. And the natural response that we had is like, okay, we're going to double down. Like, we're going to cut out all of the extra stuff. We're going to cut out anything that's not important. And we're just going to blast through this. And that's really what's been happening. Is the company has just been putting our heads down and saying, okay, we're gonna get this stuff done. We're gonna ship it. We're gonna, everyone's gonna work hard. Not like we're working crunch hours, which I gotta say, kudos to Robbie and Smokey and Fringe for building a really healthy company culture around that. But they're working really, really hard, right? Everyone's focusing on what can I do. And again, to use an example, the blog took a bunch of hours that I could have spent working on other things. And the calculus in my head 6 months ago would have been just do more things, right? Go work on more things and make more improvements. And the thing that I'm realizing and the opportunity that I have is to say, okay, let's, maybe this is just as important as actually making a tangible fix to a thing. And let's take some more time to do this. And again, it pulls everyone away if everyone has to do that, or for Demande or Robbie or myself or anyone else, Aaron, anyone else that you get on these casts. We're trying to just help give a little bit of a peek into what we're doing and help you guys understand the work that we're doing without needing to do it every day all the time. Not saying I won't come on the Predcast whenever you ask, I'll come on the Predcast whenever you ask, but
not just for that, don't ask for a week.
Last week was already hectic enough.
No, I mean, and that's kind of the point we were trying to make. Is like, we are seeing, I feel like that's what our community member that made the comment in the post was trying to point out, that we are seeing that you guys are making those changes and getting it. You're righting the ship, and I seeing some of the comments that we had on the Twitter post, we did feel like it felt more like a shot, and we didn't mean it like that. And we just kind of want to make that point. We didn't mean it as a shot. We want to mean it as appreciation, because we do see you guys making the effort and changing things up. And like when Kari became CM, and between Kari getting CM and you guys getting the new marketing manager, things have just been going. Like it's like next thing you know, we're getting things posted on Twitter more actively. We're getting things are going, and it's looking really good.
Our community team, I've already said it several times, they're rock stars.
Yep.
I will say though, just a little tidbit, you're a real one for randomly answering Discord messages, bro. Because I'll tell you, I was at work, just minding my business. I think I was eating like some popcorn chicken or something, and I'm just looking at Omeda.city, and I was like, oh shit, let me send this to him. I send it to him, and I was like, yo, when you get a second, look at this. I'm talking about within 60 seconds. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm at lunch. I'll check it out. And I'm like, damn, bro, like, hold up, eat your food. Like, don't, like, yo, eat your food. I'm not trying to throw so much work on you. He's like, it'll be all right. I got time. And so shout out to you.
I'm not an engineer. I'm not building anything super fancy. I'm not an artist or a dev or whatever. So like my contribution to the team is time. So if I can take some time and try and line things up and find a bunch of matches. I mean, Bearded and Joe both found matches a week or so ago and sent them to me that helped reveal that the fix that we thought we did and that we talked about in the blog post wasn't complete. And we were able to roll out a more complete fix for that by the time the blog went live. Right. And my contribution is, I'll take some time during lunch and I'll look at some stuff and line some things up and then go talk to the engineers and say, this looks weird. Can you help me figure out why? And they were able to find a fix. So I'm always happy to do that. I'm not saying everyone that's watching the Predcast right now should start DMing me every single match that they see. I can't fix it all, but I'm happy to be a conduit to help ease some of that communication and help make things easier so that when I go to devs, I can lay things out and say, this is what we found. This is what's weird. And, can we take a look at this?
Speaking of that, and we're pulling stuff from Omeda.city, can you help explain? I saw you do that today actually in Discord. So people who weren't in Discord and can't see it, can you explain the difference between Omeda.city and Omeda, and like not say, we know Omeda.city's numbers aren't wrong. They're actually pretty accurate, but they're not your numbers. So can you explain that difference? So
Omeda.city's great. I use it too to look up my own matches. When we talk about comparing numbers, what we're saying is not that Omeda.city's numbers are wrong and therefore bad, but they are different than our MMR. They're built off of the same data, right? So they're getting our public API, which is all the match data that we're using to make our own calculations. They're using a slightly different formula, but it's built off of the same fundamental idea. They're going to yield very similar results in most cases, most of the time from an MMR perspective. The thing that Omeda.city has an advantage in that we don't is that they're looking at it purely from like a scientific point of view. They've got this big, huge distribution that runs from like 0 to 4,000 MMR. They're spread people nice and evenly and cleanly. And one of the things we have to do, especially at the low ends and the high ends of MMR, is because you get less and less people at those tails, we kind of have to bunch up those tails and create a much flatter distribution just to make sure that people can find matches. So if you are a high MMR player or you get high MMR players in your matches, or you're a lower MMR player or get lower MMR players in your matches, it's because we've had to bunch up the tails a little bit to facilitate matchmaking. Now, again, that's always going to be a problem no matter how big the distribution is and how many people we have. The tails are always going to have to be bunched just a little bit. For the folks that were playing Paragon in late 2016 when the MMR cap went away and then everyone's queues were 3 hours long, that's what happens if you don't bunch up a little bit. So we do have that constraint. And then the other constraint is with our matchmaking, we are focused on trying to make matches reasonably quickly, make the best ones that we can that we think are reasonably fair. So the matchmaker is just searching for people and trying to put them together. We can't necessarily take Omeda.city's algorithm and then put it in our matchmaker and then suddenly we make better matches, right? The MMRs are looking at functionally the same thing, but that doesn't actually make it easier for the matchmaker itself to find people and put people together and make these matches. So their numbers are not the same as ours, and it is inaccurate to compare them one-to-one and say there's a 400 MMR difference in Omeda.city, therefore there's a 400 MMR difference. That being said, their numbers are great because they're basing off the same data and using a very similar formula. So it's a good representation of where you stand along that continuum. If you're a 3,500 player on Omeda.city, you're probably a 22 or 2,300 player on our rating, right near the top, right? And those relative values are definitely going to be the same. It's just sometimes we slightly disagree because we did calculations a little bit differently. They also don't have the party modifier, right? We talked a little bit about the party modifier where we inflate groups. Omeda.city doesn't focus on that, which is not wrong, but they don't have to, right? We want to focus on that because we care about the match fairness, and that's going to add MMR into our system in a way that's not going to be reflected on Omeda.city, who's only looking at the individual win losses.
Right. And I noticed that when I through working with you and giving you matches, that's what I would look at. I wouldn't look at just the MMR gap for the team. That's the first thing I would look at. Like, all right, what's the gap? How'd the game feel? Where did everybody else sit? Maybe the game felt good for me in solo lane, but like maybe my duo lane just got destroyed or something. I just kind of went off a feel with it, and I'm like, all right, this game just felt completely unfair. And then I look at win probability, and I would see the win probability on Omeda.city, and I saw it was like a 93%, to a 7%. I'm like, okay, what's up with this? Going with all of that information, I would send you the that match. I have you look at it, and you'd come back to me, and there's times you come back to me and you'd be like, yep, this one was definitely one of the ones, thank you for the information. Or you break it down and be like, hey, actually, if we looked at it, yeah, it does say that it was a 200 gap difference between MMR or 300, whatever, but it's actually, our numbers say that you were only 75 off. It was actually pretty close. It was good to see that.
The other thing too is everyone is going to look at a 400 difference on MMR or on Omeda.city, and they're going to say that's wild. And we say, no, actually, it was really close on our metrics. And they're like, I don't believe you. But what they're not doing is they're not looking at all those matches that are perfectly balanced on Omeda.city that maybe our matchmakers thinks are totally off, right? The differences go in both directions. It's not
I didn't even think about giving you those. I didn't think about giving you those ones.
Right. And maybe they are perfectly matched in some cases, right? It's just that what tends to happen is you play a game that you feel was imbalanced, either in your lane or overall in the team. And then you go look up Omeda.city for confirmation. You want to see a number that tells you that you never had a shot and it's not your fault. Like, you never could have won it no matter how hard you tried, right? And I'm not trying to trash people for looking at those games, because I look at those games too, right? But there is some element of confirmation bias. If you feel like a game was super lopsided and you go to Omeda.city and you see that it was perfectly balanced on Omeda.city, you're probably not going to kick up a stink. You're probably like, oh, okay, well, I guess it was just fine, even if it was actually super imbalanced in our own MMR, and that's why it felt really imbalanced. People tend to find the things that stick out to them in a negative way, and those are the things that they're like, this sucks, this is terrible, you guys don't know what you're doing, and miss all of the times in which we were maybe more right than Omeda.city was. Again, not saying Omeda.city is wrong. Their accuracy is great. Their accuracy by what we've measured is a little bit higher than ours because they don't have those constraints and because they're using a slightly different system. But it's worth thinking that there's some human psychology involved here. It's not just all systems.
Yeah. I think it's also kind of a good thing to note is that no matter how much you perfect this MMR system, it can never account for someone having a bad game. Like, I like that example you did in the blog post where you compare it to an analogy of a competitive person. And this one resonates with me very well because I did competitive for 15 years. I have all these best times where this is my fastest I've ever done my 200 freestyle, right? So ideally, since that's my best time, I should be able to hit that good on average, but sometimes I have a bad race and I had like 6 seconds and I'm just off the mark right there, right? So is that the fault of the pool of the system? No, I just have a bad game. Or like, for example, like I do off myself, like I'm a Masters player queuing, expecting me to carry, but then I do not bash off lane. Like that's not going to carry the game, right? So it's just a lot of like human factors that goes into play that the MR just won't be able to always account for necessarily. I think some people really.
There are characters that I'm real bad at. There are characters I'm real good at. If I play a character that I'm real bad at in a lobby where I'm the highest MMR, everyone's going to be like, how'd you get to that MMR? You're trash, right? And it's like, oh, well, I'm trying a new build.
They said that when I put the characters.
I get behind. I'm playing off lane. I'm playing something weird. I'm trying to play Joe's TV build, and I get behind and I get smashed. And everyone's like, "You threw the game. You're so bad. Why are you in my lobby? You must be a new player." And it's like, no, I'm pretty good at the game. I'm not the best at the game, but I'm pretty good. But I had a really bad game, and I looked like a new player, and I built a weird thing, and I picked a weird character. And even though I was doing it intentionally, no amount of me saying that is going to make someone think, "Oh, okay, actually, he's a really good player. He just had a really bad game." To use that athlete analogy, LeBron James has averaged like 24 points a game for his career. But he doesn't score 24 points a game every game. Some games he scores 35. Some games he scores 8 or 4. I don't know what his worst game of all time is, right? But no one's going to look at that game and say LeBron James is a bad player. They're going to say LeBron James had a bad game. The thing that makes online games hard is that you're always getting new people. And especially in places where there's more people bunched around, you're not seeing the same people all the time over and over again. And they don't know how well you played last game. They don't know that you went 25-0 on Murdoch last game. They know that you went 0-25 on Twin Blast this game, and they think you're garbage.
Talk about Windu.
Damn, bro, right? He calling me out like that?
Wow. Oh, man. So I do have one more question, and it's more of like obviously I don't think it's in yet, but obviously we have like a party multiplier. Is there like a plan, or even if there is one that we probably don't know about, is there like something for like a solo queue essential modifier? Like, is there something there to like help the solo queue player, or is there ever going to be something there?
So in essence, solo players are helped because they don't have a party multiplier. So the way the party multiplier works, by raising your MMR, the idea is your natural MMR sits at this level, let's say 1500, and we multiply it by some value because you're in a 4 stack, and let's say that we make everyone's MMR go up, and now it says you're a 1600. You're a 1500 player playing against 1600s because we think that's the relative difference that your team adds. As a solo player, you're not getting that boost. So maybe you're a 1600 player solo playing against a stack of 1500s, and that's our way of compensating and saying, they're in a party and that's their advantage, but you're a solo player, so you're a better player on average than they are, and that's the advantage. It's in a 1v1 sense, you should be able to win all of those traits, and that's what we're trying to find, and that's the balance we're trying to get to even, so that solo players have a 50% win rate, duos, trios, 4s, and 5s. So there is an advantage there. When it comes to queuing itself, ranked, I expect that we'll have solo duo ranked. I don't know that we've officially confirmed that, so that's why I can say it comfortably, because I don't actually know. But I would assume ranked are going to be more limited, just to try and keep things to those smaller groups. It's pretty common in the industry. But for casual queuing, we want people to be able to play with their friends. We just also want it to be fair. We want to make sure that when you're playing with a group, we try and account as best as we possibly can for the advantages we think that has. And as a solo player, that in the inverse, we don't mess with your MMR, and we think in any 1v1 sense, you should be the better player in the lobby, and that's the advantage that you get.
So I'd love to ask real quick, and just basically reiterating Easy Ed's question in the chat, because I kind of answered it a little bit, but I'd love to add it for video purposes and people just listening in general. So Easy Ed was saying in the chat, on Omeda.city, I'm ranked 4,000. Are you telling me there's 4,000 accounts in Predecessor that are higher than 1900 elo? And I can see a lot of people thinking that. What would you say to like that situation there?
Probably. We haven't released our exact account numbers, but like it is way more people that have played Pred and have accounts on Pred and play consistently. Everyone looks at Steam charts, and you try and assume that based on a number that you see as a peak on a daily thing, the thing that you got to remember is it's all an integral, right? It's all the amount that's under the curve. That's actually the people playing, and as someone jumps on and someone else jumps out. So yeah, there very reasonably could be 4,000 people better, or maybe Omeda.city rates you a little bit higher than we do, or maybe a little bit lower than we do. It's hard to really say, but yeah, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of active players. And the other thing is, because we've not done a lot of marketing, our game is highly biased with people who played Paragon or played League or Smite or whatever, right? And so the average skill level, especially when we open it up to new players, we're talking about this a little bit in Discord. We got to keep y'all away from the newbies when we go live. right? Because the average skill level of a predecessor player right now would annihilate 99% of what we expect our new players to be. There's going to be a whole new population of people who didn't play Paragon, or who didn't play League, or who didn't play, who don't play Smite, what have you. And right now, the group and the average skill level of people playing Pred is off the charts relative to where we expect it to be once we're fully out.
You know what would be interesting? Oh, I'm sorry, Joey. You were saying?
Oh no, it's just gonna be like a follow-up question. So speaking of new players and all that kind of good stuff, so you have this matchmaking you guys been working on for a while. That's sort of more catered, I guess you can say, for like the smaller kind of audience, right? So I guess my question is, when you guys transition to, let's say, the forward leads, well, the player base should hopefully be exponentially larger. Like, how would you make that transition for the matchmaking system? Like, will you have to do some tweaks before you do it, or is it kind of like one that's you have to keep it?
I would actually say the opposite. I would say the changes we're trying to make are structural, fundamental changes that are just better, regardless of whether we have League's audience or our own audience or something in between, right? The changes we're trying to make should just make the whole thing work better. It just makes the math better. It just fixes all of that. Because again, a distribution is a distribution. Whether the distribution is a distribution of 10 million players or 100 million players or 1 billion players, it doesn't matter, right? The distribution's a distribution, and what we're focused on is how are we working within that. Now, what I will say is when you get more people, you get more opportunities to tweak and adjust things, and it opens up more options, like tightening the bands that it looks for, so it's looking for a closer range of MMR. That's a thing that we can do, but that's just a thing where we look at the population and say, hey, for Q times within what we're looking for, we have the option to go a little bit further and the option to go a little bit tighter. But there's nothing that we're going to have to do now that is tuned for our small audience that won't work once we get a much larger audience.
Yeah, some great clarification right now. It sounds really good to hear that you guys just have the fundamental legwork that it should have no problem holding up when you get a very large audience coming in. And once we get that large audience, once that kind of stabilizes a little bit, like you said, you can kind of look at it and try to just tweak it even more, because matchmaking is sort of like a dynamic process. It won't ever end. You have to just keep looking at the data and making sure that if something happens, like a different trend goes on, then you tweak it to best answer to that trend.
And the thing to think about is, even with more players, every point of MMR difference becomes more and more valuable because you're sticking more and more people in those distributions. So maybe a 50 MMR difference actually equates to a 25 MMR difference because there are just more people in a finer grade of skill level at a bigger audience. And therefore, we can't just say, we have twice as many people and we can make our step sizes half as big. It's getting you the same quality of games. Again, League of Legends, I Googled it this afternoon because I was curious. League of Legends matchmaking bad. There are hundreds of posts of people complaining about League of Legends matchmaking, and Riot's the industry standard, and they pump God knows how much time and money into developing some of the best matchmakers in the world, and people aren't happy. It's never going to be a perfect solution, but we're just trying to focus on, okay, what are the fundamentally better things that we can do that aren't trade-offs necessarily, but are just, they take what we have and then raise the bar a little bit. So our new bar is here, and then we'll find a new way to raise the bar a little bit, and our new bar is here, and just try and work our way up like that incrementally.
The thing with the blog post that I like, and going back to a little bit what we were talking about with the party modifier, looking at that graph that you had on there, I was actually talking about with Efsixx before we jumped into this, and seeing that at 1300, if you're MMR 1300 and you're a 5 stack, you had a 27% chance of winning that match. That's where I've been playing mostly. That hurts. Like, I knew that if I teamed up with my friends, I'm like, that's just, it felt like I was being really.
You're not, but you're not actually a 1300. You're a 1300 maybe on Omeda.city. There are not that many people in our rating range that are 1300s. I need you to DM me what I am then. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, you're like 50. Maybe you're like 1500. But new players are 1300. So in the cases where you guys were talking about, where you're like, I got 4 of my homies and we tried to play a game and they just got smashed. That is that case, right? They were all 1300 players. They're all brand new, and you're like 15, 1600, whatever you are. right? And it's you grouping with them. That's absolutely that case. And that's what we wanted to fix with this new formula, is we recognize that just saying all 5 stacks should be, I don't know, 10% higher, whatever the biggest number was, that just did not apply, because it really, where you are in that MMR curve makes a huge difference for how coordinated you are. Do you even know the right characters to pick to be able to take advantage of things? Do you even know the call outs to make and when to choose to do Fangtooth and have everyone group and all those things that are emblematic of a really coordinated 5 stack, where you're like, they're all one brain, they know what they're doing and they're talking together. But part of new players is just trying to figure out how to push the right buttons. Right? They don't.
No, and that's,
right? They're just like, what does this thing do? And like, you know, how do I push it and make it happen? And that was a problem. We really needed to fix that because it was bad.
That's another thing. I'm glad you're on here, because that's how I read that blog post. That's how I read that graph. Was I go to Omeda.city, I see this is where I'm at. All right, and I'm like, well, no wonder I had a hard time when I 5 stacked. That's why I was like, only 3 stacking only. Like, I'm sorry guys, so you've only got 2 of you to come in. Like, and me and Windu, we love to play with viewers. We love to get the viewers to come in and game with us. And it's like, just because we're playing with viewers, we don't have that chemistry with our viewers. Like, yeah, we can sit here and bullshit and hang out, whatever. And as we're gaming, we're literally talking shit about Barbenheimer or whatever, you know, like, and we're just going in there. We're not actually talking comms. Like, but it's like, we got this modifier going against us. Well, we lost that game. You know, thanks a lot.
That's always going to be hard, because, you know, you playing with 4 people you've never played with before versus a competitive team that has decided that they're just going to stack and play in a game. Like, there's just such an enormous difference between that. We're never really going to be able to solve that entirely, but that's why we can use MMR to get a rough idea of where people are. And that's why we're trying, you know, we just basically sat down and I worked out a math formula that I thought should make all the lines be about right. And we implemented the formula, and kudos to our back-end engineer that actually did all of the work to make it happen. She made it super customizable. So we're looking at the data, we're giving it a couple days, and then we're gonna, if there are tweaks that we have to make because the 4 stack modifier is too strong, or we need to make it start a little bit earlier, a little bit later, that's all stuff that we can do very quickly and easily, and just kind of roll that out silently in the background.
Nice. No, that's great. That's great, because I mean, it's like, even if that's not me, right? Let's say, like, I understand what you're saying, like, that's not where I fall in that, but just that somebody falls into that situation, you know, like, you got 5 new players that are trying to play together, trying to learn together, and they have a 27% chance of winning. It's just like, it makes it hard. So the fact that we were able to see that, you know, and then we follow it all the way up, and it's like a 5 stack of med kits. You know, they got an 82% chance of winning. It's like, well, what's the point? You know, like, they're like,
and there probably aren't that many 5 stacks that all come over together, but what there are a lot of 4+1, where someone like any of us that goes to all of our friends and say, hey, yo, I've been playing this game for a while, I really think you'd like it, come check it out, let's all group. And they play it and they have an awful time because they were just getting smashed, and then they're like, yes, I'm out, I'm not coming back. Like, I experienced the same thing, right? I'm a Smite player, I've got my Smite friend group, I've tried to bring people over to play Pred. Some of them love it, absolutely, totally hooked, don't want to go back. And some of them just had a really not great experience. And they're like, I don't really think this game is that much fun. And it's not because they wouldn't have thought it's fun, because I just think it's objectively better game. But they had a rough time. They had a rough experience. It's not yielding good, happy memories and associations with them. I don't really think this is for me.
No, and
I'll be bullying them over there.
Yeah, right. That's probably what was happening. Him and his 4 other med kits going together. And I do gotta say, we'll get into a little further, I think. But the little bit that we were able to test last night, me and Windu, we were gaming. We 5 stacked, we 4 stacked. We may even 3 stacked before we started out early. But either way, we had quite a group with us, and we did. Our matches were actually pretty well. And Windu was actually able to hear me like be happy in the solo lane. He's like, this is the beer that I've been looking for, you know. And we didn't win every match, but you know, it wasn't like whenever before this update, if we were to 4 stack or 5 stack, there's a good chance that I'm in solo lane and there's somebody that's just leagues above me, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do my best not to throw, and I'm hoping you guys can win everywhere else on the map, because I'm not gonna be able to do anything. And these last few games that we were able to play yesterday, it actually felt really good. I mean, there was one person I'm like, this guy's just better than me, and that's fine, but like, it was a good game.
Yeah, and what I want to say is we're not done by any stretch. I don't want anyone to think that we're throwing our hands up and celebrating and mission accomplished on an aircraft carrier or anything like that. Like we recognize that there's a long way to go. That's why we're still developing the entirely new matchmaker, right? Just building a thing from scratch ourselves and doing it in house. We're still working on that, tuning that, trying to get that to a place where we're happy with it. But where we were a month ago or a few months ago was just not at a place that we thought was sustainable. Obviously it's really helpful for people to raise their concerns and posts and flag games that were bad. But realistically, like we saw it in the data, we knew it was bad. We've known it was bad for a really long time. It's just hard to fix. I was trying to think the other night about an analogy that I could use for it. And the closest thing I got, especially because I know Windu's a car guy, maybe he'll like this one. Let's say you buy a used sports car because you want to take it to the tracks on the weekend. You want to race it around a track, and it's just not as fast as you thought it should be, right? You're like, this car should be doing laps in 1 minute and 30, and it's doing them in 1 minute and 45, and I don't know why, right? Engines are so complicated. It could be one tiny valve that is screwed up in one part of the engine. And until you learn that car and how that engine's built, until you take it all apart, until you go looking for things like, yeah, you could put nicer suspension on it and gain maybe a couple seconds. You can put a spoiler for better aero and gain a couple of seconds. What we have been doing over the last several months is trying to think what actually matters. Where are the issues? What are the things that we can bolt on improvements versus what are the places where we just have to put the car on jacks, rip apart the engine, learn how this engine is put together, and then go find every little nut and bolt until we find the one that's wrong and fix that one. And then all of a sudden the airflow is solved and all of a sudden we get the times that we want. And what we found with the bug that we fixed was one of those little tiny bolts buried deep in the engine that it wasn't until we were able to get access to the code base directly and put some of our best engineers on it that we were able to find that little thing that was wrong, that all of a sudden the engine runs clean and it purrs. And in addition to that, we're getting the nicer tires, we're getting the nicer suspension. We're trying to bolt on all of that other stuff to continue to make it better because we want to make it as fast as we can be. And you're never going to do a lap in 1 second. There's always going to be a limit. You can always make it a little bit faster, and that's the thing that we're chasing.
I do appreciate the car analogy by all means. Now, I think it's just to kind of harp on that car analogy a little bit, but keep it a little bit simplified. Too many people still forget till this day, all you guys got were pieces to an unfinished car as a company. Like a lot of people forget that it's literally like building from the ground up. And even at the end of the day, when you get out there and actually put things to test, actually see it in action, actually give it out to the community, it's like, well, you know what, we got to fix that. We didn't see that one coming. Let's twist this a little bit here. Now, I'd love to kind of harp a little bit on Omeda.city versus Omeda as far as MMR numbers, because for example, Bearded mentioning that when he saw the chart at 1300, Omeda.city says he's 1300, so he just thought, hey, that's me. Not too many people realize that whatever MMR might be there, it might be higher, it might be lower, it might vary. You might be a plat, but it might say you're gold. You might be a silver, but maybe you're a bronze. And not to even say that to kind of disillusion some people out there that are gonna be like, well, fuck, how am I supposed to know now? I've been grinding for weeks. But at least to just kind of let people know that it's like, hey, don't go fully based off of that. There's some variance to it.
Yeah, I mean, our numbers, our floor is 900 MMR and our ceiling is 2300 MMR. And those numbers may not mean anything to anyone, but you can know that Omeda.city's runs a much wider distribution than that. And they're not wrong to run a wider distribution. It gives them this really nice, clean thing that they believe does a better job of separating the differences in skill, especially at the very, very high end, right? I would guess 90% of the community on Omeda.city is below 2000. And then there are people that are like 36 or 37 or something like that. I don't know exactly how high it goes, but like, but way, way, way up there, right? And that's so that they can help. They believe that it does a stronger job of better identifying people at the far end of the tail. And it does, realistically. We can't do that, like I said, for matchmaking purposes. We have to put a hard cap at the top. We also want to put a hard cap at the bottom so we don't just end up with people losing a bunch and then not being able to find a match after they've lost a bunch. So our numbers are much, much closer together. What I will say about MMRs, and people ask, well, why don't you just share the MMRs? It's a casual MMR. It's meant for a casual game. We don't want people to be treating this as a rank. Now, if you want to go to Omeda.city and that's the thing that helps you get excited, you want to see yourself improve, that's great. We're going to do a ranked mode. Your rank is going to be public. You're going to be able to see your rank. You're going to know your rank. We're going to have a ranked system. Demande talked a little bit about some of the plans for that, I think, last week. That's what we want you to focus on for the big shiny number. Please don't be going around beating people over the head because of your perceived rank. Like, I saw someone posted the meme in the Reddit about the gold player yelling at the silver player and the tail goes way off into infinity. Like, especially, everyone's here to learn. We're trying to grow this community. Don't be toxic. Don't be a jerk. If you're a real jerk, then the chat system will cut you off and I'll laugh. But really, what our goal is right now is for people to have matches that are fair enough that they have fun and fair enough that we feel that they can give us good feedback about the things that we need to improve. And our primary focus is make matches that are reasonably fair so people can play the game. And if they're way out of skew, that's no good. And that's why we've been focusing so hard on improving matchmaking. But the goal is not to have a ranked system. Use Omeda.city for your own reference. Use it because it's an awesome site with lots of stats and everything like that. Those are really cool. But those numbers are not exactly the same as ours. And you can't necessarily compare them one to one.
Right.
So I do have a question. This is just to appease my whole entire future of rank coming out. Are you guys working on the rank kind of matchmaking system? Essentially, is that like with the new system that you guys are working on, or is it still just
the ranked mode itself is still being developed? So as designers say, here are the things and here are the requirements for ranked, and here are the ways in which we need to make matchmaking totally different, then our developers that are working on improving the matchmaking system will be able to help with those. There's nothing crazy that we have to do to the matchmaker, I don't think, to totally overhaul it. And by the time we have ranked, we'll have hopefully rolled out, I hope, our new matchmaker entirely, in which we'll have full control over it and won't have to, work with an outside party on it. So all the concerns that everyone has about ranked matchmaking, I share those too. We want to make sure that we get it right. We want to make sure that it's a fair system, that the TP or whatever you want to call it system is good and fair, that we're accounting for things that we think are important. But I don't have any specifics as to how that's going to affect the matchmaker itself yet.
I want to ask this before it gets too far up. Zygor asks, is there any plans for a remake system for times when there are 4v5s due to bugs or when players AFK at spawn at 0000?
It's something I want to look into.
Okay.
Also want to reevaluate early surrenders, especially in a non-ranked system right now. We don't really have to worry about saving your MMR because realistically, sure, Omeda.city can choose to do things if they want to do things. Doesn't really matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. But what does matter is someone quits a minute into the game and you got to wait another 14 minutes to be able to surrender, 9 minutes or whatever it is. So looking at things like that, also looking at remakes from a more positive sense. We've got the add friend button afterwards. It would be great to have a push button to auto invite this person to party and immediately party back up. Honestly, I haven't brought that up with the team yet. Want to talk to the UI folks to see how easy that is and how plausible that is. For cases in which a match is just kind of ruined, what I'd really like to do is just focus on limiting the amount of time that you're spending in that game saying this sucks and it's no good, rather than trying to remake it and then find someone else. Just make it a shorter period of time that you're really unhappy about that thing and put you in a new fresh match that hopefully goes a lot better.
This might come with a new UI, but it kind of, what you were just talking about there kind of made me thought about this. And we were playing last night and we had a guy that we played it with, or we played against multiple times. But apparently, and one of our friends was actually on that team playing against us. and just it was really toxic and made it bad for everybody. And he wanted us to report them, but when he told us, it was after the match, and there's no way to really report. I mean, we as partners have the ability to report and go into our little partner chat and put a name out there, but like the ability to report after a game would be something that would be huge as well. And that might come with the new UI totally or whatever, but so
I'm totally with you. And you know, how we address those building systems so that you can get feedback that your reports are actually doing something meaningful. I mean, obviously it's easy for people to see right now that you know, the chat system's definitely kicking in, and I know some people have been whining, but I'm going to drop a stat here free for everyone. Only the bottom 2.5 or 3% of people by toxicity history are eligible for any kind of chat ban lasting a day or longer. Anything that lasts more than just the rest of that match. So if you're getting long match bans or long multi-match chat mutes, let's like maybe think about how you're engaging with the people around you. I will say the chat mutes we are a lot faster on. We bias towards trying to shut things down really quickly under the assumption that, yeah, the system's going to get it wrong sometimes. You may try and say something normal and we accidentally mute you, but the general chat system is still going to accomplish most of what you need for in-game communication. Your account's not going to be negatively impacted if you're a normal person. It's not like you say a thing and it catches it wrongly and then you're going to get a huge ban the next day. We're the only people that are getting the really long stuff are folks that have a history of more negative communication than we would like to generally foster.
Perfect. And for those of you who don't know, because I didn't know, I had asked Zygor while you were talking about something else, though. A remake system is pretty much like a mutual forfeit, you know, that where nobody gets affected by, you know, you don't lose MMR, you don't lose anything or whatever. It's a draw in a sense because you loaded into a match that was a 4v5 and you already stacked against you.
Again, we try not to think. I know people care about MMR. I can't pretend that I don't like seeing a big number. But realistically, your MMR doesn't matter that much in a casual game. Once you played your first several matches, once you end up right about where your current skill level has you, winning or losing a single match is not going to make a difference. Now, for a ranked system, it is something we want to be mindful of, you know, penalizing people that leave more than the people that didn't leave. Things like that are things that we're thinking about as far as how we're doing the calculations there. So it will matter. Something like that may matter a lot more for ranked. But for non-ranked stuff, really, I would just like to get you out of that game that's not good and get you into a game that you have a lot more fun in quickly.
Right.
Definitely appreciate that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the first forfeit has to be like a unanimous decision. Everybody has to agree to it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in a 4v5
like tier, yeah.
But if
also, it does subtract by one if you're missing a person, but it still has to be unanimous.
Yeah, so
4v5, then you need 4 yeses.
And one of the 4 is like, hey, no, we got this. And then you're just stuck in there another like 5 minutes. He said medkit.
That's medkit for sure.
That's one of the things.
We can do this, boys.
We've talked a little bit about that, and I think it's worth us reevaluating. You know, how likely are you to actually win a game if you're, you know, down a person, or if people are surrendering at this point? How likely do they ultimately turn around? Not saying that those games aren't amazing. When someone really wants to surrender and you're like, no, we got this, and you do, that's super cool. One of the things that I think really helped battle royales as a genre take off is the amount of time you spend losing is so low. You have a chance of winning, you have a chance of winning, you have a chance of winning, you're out, you're in a new game, and you're rolling on. And that's a super positive experience. The thing with MOBAs that can be tough is you're like, I lost my lane. Maybe everyone else on my team is doing fine, but I'm 0-7 and just getting annihilated every time I show up and everything that I try and do. And I'm going to have to sit here for 30 minutes and hope that the rest of my team can carry me. And I'm just going to have a bad time. And that, some of that is just the way that MOBAs work, but trying to find cases in which we can limit the toxicity, limit the cases in which people are flaming, even though they're just trying their best, all that stuff. We're just trying to be critical about cases in which we can build something a little bit better and then try and go do that and build that better system.
And that reminds me, actually, we were working with you in matches and stuff like that. And I had a match where me and Wendy were actually working right with you. And I was playing with my friend Sane, and I went carry It was Twin Blast just got released, and I went 0-4-6 as a carry, and we won the game. And the game was actually fun. Like, if I look at me just as an individual, I didn't do good by any means as a carry. You don't get any kills at all. You know, our duo lane didn't get any kills. I remember my support did really well. She was like, I don't know, let's say 8-16 or something like that. She got pretty good assists, whatever, but no kills. Dual lane got no kills, and we still ended up winning the game. But the game was fun because of the team aspect and what we were able to do as a team and help with the team fights. Like, I was able to get 6 assists, go in. I was a DPS support in a sense, I'm like, all right, let's do what we got to do. And that game, I went and looked at it, and it's like using Omeda.city, it was like, I think we had like a 40% chance of winning. And I was talking with Windu, and I was like, I'm okay with this. Like, no, we actually had less than that. It was like a 35% chance of winning. And like, I was thinking like a 30-70, between 30-70 and 50-50. That right there to me is like a perfect match. And I'm using Omeda.city's numbers. I don't know what your numbers are, but like, to me, if I go into Omeda.city and I look at win probability and I see that it's between 30-70 and a 50-50, I'm like, all right, it is what it is. We lost, we won, whatever it might be. But if I go into a game and it's like 93 to 7, I'm like, well, why was I even in that? Like, what was this? But like, I still had, like, you can have fun. It's not, now, if you look at individual progress, yeah, you want to get kills and stuff like that. You want to do things, but just because you're 0-7-0 doesn't mean that the game's out. This is more of a soapbox to talk people like, hey, don't just FF because you want to FF. Like, stick in there. Like, I went 0-4-6 as a carry. I should be fucking 10-1-5 or something. I should be owning and doing whatever I'm doing. I mean, Windu's my guy teaching me, and I'm still trash. So what's the problem with him?
Hey, we can blame Efsixx and Zygor for that. And Joey, what do you mean? Those are your teachers. Those are your solo teachers.
Right. That's why you better on solo. But no, anyways, just poking fun. But no, like, you can have fun in a game and not actually get any kills. Like, is my point with that, and the game can still be close. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. So
called me out there, Wendy.
Hey man, I had to bring somebody down with me, but no. So I'd love to hear what if you've had any connection with PlayStation, for example. Like, what has that relationship been with them? Talking to all these people, if you've been involved, like what does that whole ordeal go through?
So I've handed off most of the marketing relationships over the last couple months to our head of marketing, but I was the primary point of contact for a lot of that stuff for the better part of the last year. People are really excited. I gotta say, people they think it's a really cool product. They think it's an awesome story to be able to resurrect the spirit of something and turn it into something new, especially with founders that don't have deep histories specifically in game development that have been able to build an awesome company full of people all pulling in the same direction. We've really got a lot of people, that I've talked to excited about what we're doing and also about our numbers. I know, it's easy to, again, yes, we recognize that we're not trying to actively pull in a ton of new players right now, but the retention that we've had of everyone that has stayed despite the fact that we're a super early, game has been super awesome. So that helps in all of those conversations as well. People are extremely optimistic about what Predecessor is going to be able to do once we decide, okay, it's time to really market, it's time to really push hard. So we feel like we're in a really good place. Obviously, a lot of work to do on the development side, but our partners are excited about where we're going to get. We're excited about being able to get to that point and work with them to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting for me to hear because I always thought the Paragon history might actually be a downside for convincing people,
So the thing that helps Paragon is that Fortnite was not just another game. Right. Paragon was shut down because Epic Games said Fortnite thing might go kind of crazy. We should pivot. And Epic did pivot, and it was a very good thing for us as much as it hurt me as a Paragon player. Like the 5 years that I spent working on Fortnite, unreal. I mean, it was so
see what you did there.
to be. Yeah, got it. It was so cool to be part of doing that stuff, but it makes it a lot easier for people to say, okay, it's not that Paragon was a failure. I mean, Paragon didn't live up to what it could have been, for sure. But Paragon was shut down because Fortnite became a thing. And Epic said, this is what we gotta get behind, which was the right call. The advantage that we have is Paragon had a great community. It wasn't taking over the world, but maybe it would have been super awesome if it had some more time to marinate and some more lessons were learned and applied and things like that. So the fact that, I mean, all the funding that Robbie and the team has been able to get, and the size of the Discord community we have, the number of players that we have for a game that has spent not a dime on marketing, is crazy. There are games that have $100 million budgets that have released relatively recently that would kill to have the kind of sustained player base that we have and the kind of activity that we have, engagement and everything that we have. So we're really happy with where we're at. Now, that's not saying that we don't want this game to grow by a ton, because we do, and that's why we're excited to get to console, and we're excited to look past that to bigger releases. But being able to build a community, we wouldn't have been able to build this community if we didn't have the strength of the Paragon community. If there weren't so many people that really loved that thing and wanted to see its spirit come back in a more accessible, slightly better form. And that's what we're really trying to fill. Is this a space that's ready to be taken over? No knock against Smite. I love Smite, but Smite's not taking over the world on console in the third-person market. League and Dota don't have console versions. There's a huge opportunity space for us to be able to really do something awesome in a space that hasn't been dominated by anyone yet, and that's super exciting. I'm not saying we're only going to focus on console, but being able to move into a world where everyone is now, where everything's cross-platform, and you play with what you got, and your friends play with what they got. It's a really cool time, and it's a really great time to be making a game like this, where we really think that we've got an opportunity to do something awesome.
Like that.
I want to say Smite definitely isn't taking over anything with like Unreal 3. Is it that they're in, or
they're on Unreal 3?
1.5.
And I gotta give some love to Jshredz. I've got 4,000 hours in Smite or whatever. I love that game. It's a great game, and the thing that Jshredz has been able to do is they have been so steady. They have been able to manage a steady and consistent player base that's gotten every developer's gotten their game check, at the end of their paycheck at the end of every 2 weeks. I aspire to be able to get to a point where we are like, yeah, we're making tons of money. Everyone's getting paid. We have no fears. And thankfully, where we're at now, we have no fears of that too, because the amount of funding we have is awesome. But I want to get to a point where I can look back after 10 years. Look back at what Smite was 10 years ago, or what Warframe was 10 years ago, or what League was 10 years ago. Any of these games that have been going and run, they have changed so much over time, and they are popular and successful now because of what they are now, but also because of the changes that they've gone in over time. This is just our first attempt, right? We think there's a great core there that we can build around, and we can adapt, and we can change, and we can do stuff through the future. But we want to build a company and look back after 10 years of predecessor and be like, man, look at how bad it was when we started. Right? Look at how garbage that predecessor in 2023 was compared to 2033. Even as proud as we are of what we're able to be running right now, we just, we're excited to have people along the ride with us.
For sure. All right, so Med can ask, and I don't know if this is just a Omeda.city thing, or if you guys have this internal as well. If you do have this internal, well, can you explain it? And if it is just Omeda.city, then obviously I don't expect you to explain it. But the question is, some winners and losers gain and lose different ELO numbers across the team after a match. Why and how is that?
So I can't speak to exactly how they do their numbers, but we also have adjustments. Now, it's possible that Omeda.city has some sort of performance score calculator built in there. We don't have a performance score calculator. We're going with kind of a pure, ELO, Glico, whatever system. But the idea is, if you are a stronger player relative to the rest of the lobby and you lose, that you had a greater opportunity than you took advantage of to be able to impact the game and yield a win. And if you're a weaker player and your team won, then you probably contributed more to your team than the system might have expected you to contribute, and therefore your MMR goes up by more. And I have to reiterate this, because it's not a ranked mode. As much as we like to see, green number get bigger, functionally MMR should not be seen as a number that always goes up, and you just got to always keep pumping that thing up. It is a mathematical assumption based on your game history of wins and losses, of an approximation of how likely you are to win a particular game. So if you go up by more or less, it's just the system taking guesses as to how you'll perform in the next game based on how you performed in this game. And I wouldn't get too hung up on, oh, he went up by 10 and I went up by 8, and that's not fair. It's like, no, the system's just trying to make its best guess. Realistically, that number is just behind the scenes, and you shouldn't have to interact with it ever. You can now, because it's the best approximation of a ranking system that people are using, and that's totally fine.
Okay. Going back to your matchmaking blog here, and the next graph you have here, it's the median and the worst 10%. I just had a hard time understanding it. What do you mean by the worst 10%?
So you take all the matches that we've made and you look at what the gaps are between teams. Right. You want the gaps to be 0, right? You want average 1750 against average 1750.
Right.
The median is what is the middle value of all of the games that we have? What is the middle value for the difference between two teams? It's kind of like the average, but it's close enough. Let's just say it's the average difference between two teams.
Okay.
The worst 10% is saying, of all of the matches we have, what are the biggest gaps between teams? And the worst 10% is like, of all of the distributions of all of the matches that we have, the ones with the biggest gaps are that worst 10%. And we took that value from being 160 or whatever it was down to 80. So now our worst 10% of games by fairness are about 80.
Okay. So the median here, what I'm looking at, like here on the 4th of July, we're looking at 60% is the median, right?
Not percent. That's an MMR.
60 MMR, the gap, right? So the gap between this team and that team is 60 MMR. All right. And on that 4th of July, we're looking at 160, just above 160 for that worst 10%. And then you guys made that change and just going to the next number here on the 12th of July, after you made that change, that median dropped down to under 20%. And that worst 10% dropped to under 80,
under 20 MMR.
I
think what's worth pointing out too is the paragraph just above or below that. I think we talk about the expected win rates, and that's probably what helps contextualize it. So an MMR difference of 160 MMR is like an 80% or 85% expected win for the higher team. Like similar, you look on Omeda.city and they say we expect you've got an 80% chance of winning or losing this game. 160 MMR translates to roughly that, I think, for us.
Okay.
And we took it down to 80, which is like a 57 or 58% expected win. On median, or basically our average game, we took the gap from being about 60, which is like a 55% or something expected win rate for the higher team, down to 20, which is basically even. Like that's a coin flip. And what that means is the average game, again, median, average, close enough. The average predecessor game right now, according to our MMR, is a coin flip. And the worst 10% of games by least fair, according to our MMR, is about 60-40, give or take, according to our calculations. Now, again, Omeda.city, because they have a wider range, because they don't have some of the constraints, they tend to go a little bit more extreme in their expectations than maybe I would go. They've got some math that backs that up, I'm sure, but a little more extreme than I would go. But generally speaking, if we can get everyone in that like 50-50 to 60-40 range for all of their matches, I would be so happy with that level of fairness.
I think we all would be.
Yeah, there we go.
I will attest to the fact that...
And that makes a lot more sense. It makes a lot more sense now.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I will attest to the fact that I sent a match over to Jshredz, and I was like, bro, there's no way this game's fair. There's no shot. Like, yo, check this out, please. Fairly sweaty match. And then he comes back, and he's like, bro, that's got to be one of the most fairest matches I've ever seen. It's less than 1 MMR. It was like 0.8 difference between the two teams. And I was like, well, shit. All right, never fucking mind. All right, Omeda.city. There's just because I was just going based off of Omeda.city, right? And I see the average MMR of the two teams there, and then I would see the individual, like solo lane versus solo lane, mid versus mid. And I was like, no shot, bro. Like, not even close. Like, why did this lobby happen? I sent it to him so quick. I was like, bro, this one's for you. And he just turned it around like, my guy. Like, that's about as fair as it gets. And then for fairness, you know, he eliminated all the names, he randomized the MMRs and everything. I was like, I just want you to look at this lobby from highest MMR to lowest MMR. And then you just literally saw like super close MMR side by side. And I was like, that is not what Omeda was telling me. God damn it, I look like an idiot. Okay. Like, all right, thank you. Thank you.
You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's not like Omeda.city is wrong. It's that we disagree, and the disagreements that people tend to see are the ones where Omeda.city has a big number, even if it may be a small number for us. But there are times when Omeda.city may have a small number and say it's fair, and we may disagree and may say it's less fair. It's just
size of the number doesn't always matter.
It does not.
It's not the size. Actually.
All right, I gotta ask this question because it's in chat. I don't want it to go away, even though it is posted here. But since we're speaking of the future, how does Jshredz feel when people say that they are in a tougher spot in terms of market? Games are expected to be bigger and better than previous games in the same genre in order to have a sustainable future.
That's a true statement about the expectations that players have nowadays. Cannot fight that. That being said, game companies have gotten a lot better about meeting those expectations, or at least understanding the path that you need to take to meet those expectations. The whole reason, my whole pitch to Robbie when I wanted to come take this job was, hey, I just spent the last 5 years learning how to run 3 of the largest and most successful games that the industry's seen. Let me take some of those learnings and apply that here. And there are things that I didn't know and I didn't understand. Our principal analyst was the lead at King, the mobile company that does the enormous mobile games. Again, we pulled folks from Ubisoft, and everyone has learned different things from where they've been, and everyone fills in the knowledge gaps for each other. So we are able to do things as a smaller team that teams 2 or 5 or 10 times our size several years ago would not have been able to do, because this industry is really good at sharing the things that it learns. That's one of the things I love about the gaming industry from a development perspective is that developers tend to be super open about sitting down with each other, doing big conferences, saying, this is what we've learned, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. And the water level across the industry is getting better. When it comes specifically to the market, MOBAs have been around for a long time. There are some solidified expectations. That being said, there's not been a third-person action MOBA with verticality and these kinds of graphics. So we are in our own space, right? And how we adjust our game and how we find spaces to live within our niche, and hopefully our niche gets huge. That's the challenge that there is for us. But the advantage of there being prior art is that we can learn from them. We can look at what League has done well and not well. We can look at what Overwatch has done well and not well, what Smite has done well and not well, Warframe, whoever in these live service games. And we have the advantage of looking at their learnings and then trying to adapt them for what we're doing.
All right.
Nice.
So let's talk future here. So you're talking about how with the system we have now, if everything runs the way we want it to run with MMR and the matchmaking system, what are you going to do future-wise? I know you don't just do MMR or MM. What are your plans going forward? What do you want this game to be at? What do you want to do? Like, this is what I want to work on. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to get. Where are you going there?
So me personally, I would love to work myself out of a job. I would love for people to never have any negative experiences. I'd love for this game to run at 150,000 FPS on a toaster. I would love for, I'd love to put a server in everyone's backyard so that everyone's ping is 0. Things like that are.
I got a spot.
Yeah, I know, right? Solving those kinds of problems are next. I know people talk and ask a lot about regions and, can we have an Australia region or Brazil region? one of the things that I'd love to be able to do that a larger population is going to be able to unlock. Touched on this a little bit in the blog, but our population changes by 10, 15, 20 times from peak to valley in any given day, from the busiest hour to the least busy hour. And that's not a predecessor thing. That's across the industry, across the whole industry. That those populations really spike a lot. And we got to be thinking about not only, hey, are there enough people for me and my buddies to play on a Saturday afternoon, but also, can we sustain matchmaking at Tuesday night at 4 o'clock in the morning for all of these regions? So, we're looking towards things that we can do in a partial way to start to step towards more regions, and then how we can get to a point where we feel comfortable opening up more major regions. That's probably going to be the next big thing on my roadmap, is evaluating how console has changed our ability to look at those regions, and then refining the toxicity system, trying to find ways to not just be punishing, but also to reward people that are really friendly and really engaging, trying to build more opportunities for people to have good times, trying to make sure that we're creating an ecosystem that onboards new players well. That's another big challenge. The thing that people overlook about MOBAs is you got to learn two things when you learn to play MOBAs for the first time. First thing is, what do all the buttons do? And the second thing is, what is all the strategy? And if you just go and just start playing MOBAs right away, you're going to get overwhelmed because you don't know what the characters are. You don't know what your character is. So looking towards more casual game modes, looking towards better onboarding, just making sure that we feel comfortable being able to get people to the stage where they feel like they understand what's going on and they're engaging with it and being able to impact the battlefield around them. So those are a couple of the big problems I'm really excited to start tackling once I feel that I can kind of disengage a little bit from the matchmaking space. I think we've made enormous strides in matchmaking. We have more work to go. I'm certainly not throwing my hands up and walking away now, but starting to think about how we're providing a better all-around experience for new players, for existing players, for everyone that's playing Pred. That's all I'm going to keep focusing on until I feel that we've done it. We're the biggest game in history, and I could just take all my money and retire somewhere.
All right. Well, I do know that it's hard. You guys are always hard at work doing what you're doing, and now that I know what your job is, really what it comes down to with being a predecessor, us four here and everybody here, the 76 viewers in chat right now are the ears to the floor of what the community feels and what the issues we're having with the game. And if we ever come up across that big issue, that like, hey, this is like how matchmaking was a month ago, like when we were having we were having issues, Crashy came on and we talked to import, and when that stuff starts to become that snowball, when that snowball starts rolling, we'll get you on here, have you come back on, and we'll talk about it. We'll let you know where the community stands, and we'll get that problem solved, because we got our own predecessor problem solver right here with Jshredz.
I can't promise I'm on every week, and I can't promise I'll be able to.
Oh, not every week. I hope we don't have Discord every week.
Give them a week. Give them a week.
I can't promise I'll respond to every Discord message within 5 minutes. And if you see a game on Omeda.city that's like a 1,000-point difference or something wild, sure, you can send it to me. But we've got a lot of data already. I don't need a flood of everyone's matchmaking matches or everyone's case in which they were muted in chat for this game, and why did I get muted for this thing. If there are things you think are genuinely systemic problems, always hit me up. I'm on Discord. If you really think there's an issue, I'm happy to do it. Zuzu, our community experience manager, Carrie Nabori, our community team, please hit them up. Don't want to volunteer Robbie and Smokey, but our founders and friends, they're always out and about too. We just want people to understand how much we care about this thing and how hard we're working. And like I said, I've not done a good enough job myself of being out there, and I'm trying to do a better job of being out there and being able to have these direct conversations with people, because it's not enough to just work hard. We want you to know that we're working hard and know how excited we are for the future of Pred. So I'm on Discord at Jshredz. I'm on Reddit at Jshredzs. You can make a YouTube video about something and send it to me. Like, I'm happy to take a look at stuff. And then if we can do something about it, we'll go do something about it, right? We really, this whole early access period is built on understanding what this community cares about and the things that they like and engage with, and the things that they don't like and don't engage with as much, so that we can build the best version of this game possible when we start to expand our audience.
Awesome. No, and I can speak for all of us here at the Predcast. We see that from you guys, that you guys want to get out there and have the community see that you guys not just put your head to the grindstone and just grind your way through and do the work. You guys want to come out here and you want to show the community that you're doing the work, because I mean, I can't think of a dev that I reached out to come on the show. Like, you guys have all reached out to me, right? It's you know, like, I had Demande scheduled. You reached out to me and said, hey, when are you next available? I'm like, well, I got Demande this week, I got next week available. You're like, all right, boom. It wasn't me reaching out to you like, hey, there's that MM blog, can you come on this week? Like, you put this blog on. No, you came out to me and said, hey, I want to come on the show, I want to talk about stuff. Like,
why do you think I worked so hard on the matchmaking blog last week? I scheduled this thing so that I had a deadline.
There you go. See, but I mean, it's not just it was you, it was Demande, it's Robbie. Like, you guys are coming to me and say, hey, I want to come on the show. Like that. One, it says to us here on the Predcast, we're doing our job. But two, it says to you guys, as a dev, you want these 76 viewers and everybody that's, the 1,000K views that we're getting on YouTube and plus some, that Robbie one is at 4.1 or 4.2K views now. Like, we're getting up there. Like, people are seeing the content, people are watching the content, and they're enjoying the content. And that means that everybody's here enjoying it, and we see it and we appreciate it. And that's not just you, that's everybody that's reached out to us and coming on here. So
I mean, here's the reality. Every game developer would kill for a community that cares as much about the product as the predecessor community does. To be able to be in a circumstance where we've got a community that wants us to succeed as much as we want to succeed, because they're so excited about what this thing is and can be. You guys doing the Predcast or the Minions folks, or everyone that makes content on YouTube, and everyone who streams and everyone who posts on Reddit. Like, we see everyone and we see how engaged people are. Sorry, my brain's melting.
You're good.
A long day, but it is so meaningful to us as developers to see people engage with the thing that we're working really hard on. All we want to do is, get our version of mom putting the picture on the fridge. We want people to be proud of the thing that we did, because we're proud of the thing that we're doing. And so any opportunity that we have to be part of these conversations and help keep things moving, that's just, it is so invaluable. It is so much more meaningful to us personally than just about anything else. Seeing that kind of feedback, seeing how much people are engaging, and really love what this is. So thank you all for being part of this and doing this, whether it's the viewers, whether it's you guys running this podcast, everyone that's involved in the community. It's the thing that keeps us going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when you get close to retiring, we'll help you spend that 10%. I got you, fam.
Come down to Florida. We'll definitely. I don't know about beard, but Windu and Joey will help you spend.
We're making
that.
a party. I'll be down there. All right.
Oh, no.
So Crash, you just jumped in here. Thanks for hanging out, Crash. You jumped in here, asked a question. Can you speak to the confidence you / Omeda has in the speed of development with Predecessor? My continued concern is not that Omeda isn't talented, but that some of the inexperience of the team has trickled down to the turnaround of content and new systems. How do you think the current or future development speed will affect player retention post free-to-play?
I mean, one, our team's not inexperienced. Sure, our founders didn't have a ton of time in the industry, but they hired some extraordinarily smart people, and we've hired a lot of people from very experienced folks from around the industry. I think some of that is probably a feature of the new UI slowing forward-facing feature development. We've had to take all of the systems offline and just focus on developing for that. And that has slowed down the rate of new features that you see coming out. I mean, again, I spent half a decade at one of the premier AAA development companies in the world. This team works just as fast, and I would argue significantly faster than that team. We have some advantages. We're smaller, we're leaner, but also people they understand where we're trying to get and the directions we're trying to go, and they're all pulling towards that. So, it sucks that we haven't been able to release a bunch of front-facing new features recently, but the pace of development has not slowed, and the pace of the output that will be enabled by getting over some of these big humps, I just have the utmost confidence in it. It sucks to not be able to give you new stuff every week, for sure, but the development speed itself is exactly where we want it to be without burning folks out. Hopefully, we're trying to be conscious of that, but the team is making some immense strides.
Good to hear. Good to hear. All right. Does anybody have any more questions for Jshredz? We actually are at that 2-hour mark that we try to hit, and I still want to touch up on some spoilers that were given today in Discord chat.
Ooh, I'll be pulling up some of those spoilers on the
Nothing Efsixx. Anything for you, Joey?
No, there's just been a ton of really good insights and very good answers to those questions. So really appreciate you coming onto the show and giving us some really insightful answers to our questions. So thank you for your time.
Big Tones wants to know what's your favorite flavor of chips there, Jshredz.
Yeah, I just read that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm hard judging.
Doritos, Cool Ranch Doritos are S tier and will always be S tier.
Yes.
Or you belong in Florida. Get me out.
You belong in Florida.
You're not that far. Oh, bro, that's such a southeast answer. Oh my god. Do you eat pizza with ranch?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, never mind. You don't belong in Florida.
I eat pizza.
I do have one question though. Is there anything they can give us an update on the UI, essentially, where you guys are at? I don't know if you know too much about that information, but
I don't have a release date, but it's close. It's very close.
Okay.
The challenge with the UI, and I think some folks have touched on this a little bit, but it's worth kind of reiterating. So the challenge that we were going through while trying to redevelop the UI was we were trying to make a new feature. We had to make a new feature with all of the UI elements that worked for the existing UI that we have in the game. And then we also, because we still wanted that feature when we swapped over to the new UI, had to develop the same feature with a totally different set of systems to be able to work in the new UI so that we could flip over and still have the system. And that was just an enormous headache. It was twice as much work. The implementation is a lot of the battle. The design, it's easy to design something you think is cool, but then when you go to actually make it, that's when you start running into bugs that you don't expect. And that just was making it, was really, really slowing us down. So the decision we made was, for the sake of not wasting a ton of efficiency and actually developing more features and more content, we're going to put a hold on releasing stuff for the existing UI, and we're just going to develop stuff on the new UI. So it's not that the whole company, it's not that 75 people are working on new UI. They're working on features for the new UI. It's just that we can't roll them out now because we have the old UI. Okay. I don't have a hard date. I think the team is still working on it. It's a day-by-day thing as we're getting close to ironing out the bugs that we know about and finding new bugs that we didn't know about. But we're very, very close to being able to roll that out.
So pretty much the new UI has pretty much most of the features that we're probably looking for from the community side of things, because the old UI is essentially just not fitting for what we're trying to get with the new UI.
It's not that when the new UI drops, we're going to drop 25 brand new features.
No, of course not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the features that we are developing, we're developing for the new UI. Hero mastery and acquisition and, designs for ranked modes and all of that stuff. We're developing on the new UI, but because the new UI is not out yet, we can't roll
release it on the old UI
because we're waiting. The new UI was necessary partially because of console requirements that we just needed to make UI changes, otherwise we wouldn't have passed console certification. But a lot of it is also just forward thinking. It's thinking about, okay, how can we build a system that will let us develop these features faster, right? Let's build a more intuitive system. Let's build a system with better fundamentals. And the UI team has done amazing work to get us to a position where now when we think up a feature, we design a feature, the actual implementation time to that feature is going to be faster than it would have been if we had stayed on the new UI. So, we're eating some pain right now, doing a lot of work, but the work that the UI team is doing and everyone involved with that effort is going to pay dividends. It's going to allow us to develop things faster, adjust things faster, find bugs faster, fix those bugs faster. It's all stuff that is going to put us in a much better position for the future.
Okay, I like that. Thank you.
Now, it's worth mentioning. So we mentioned that there's a couple teasers that we wanted to kind of bring up, right? Now, there was a couple discussions going on in the predecessor Discord chat, right? And the first one, I'll just go ahead and throw this out there. It's been confirmed that the letter S has to do with the name of the new hero. I don't even know if that's much of a teaser, if that's the first letter, last letter. This lizard better not be called Scott. I swear, bro.
It's Steve.
I would say, think of it. Y'all ever played like Hangman or any of those games? Think of it like that. It doesn't.
So it doesn't.
It's in there, but it doesn't.
It might.
It could.
It might start with an S.
Right. Yeah. It might start with an S. It doesn't necessarily start with an S. And it's in the name for sure.
And it's not a plural. That's the one thing I'll give you. It's not like.
It was not at the end.
Collection. It's not like the ice climbers with an S on the end.
Okay.
Lizard is lizard. But there is an S in the name. Honestly, the theming that they've done around the character, the whole character is awesome, but the theming that the team is starting to put together around backstory and the lore, I don't know how much of that we're going to be able to share externally, but at least in terms of our own world building, super exciting, super cool stuff. I'm really jazzed about it.
So, kind of cool thing that we found out is Kari's making the next blog post, right? And in the next blog post, we get a name confirmation. Like, it'll actually, like, we'll know is like, hey, this is his name.
And some teasers about backstory, I think. Not the full story necessarily, but some teasers.
Okay, so kind of like when they release when they release Huntress and then the vampire hunter vibes.
I think we're going to release more publicly than we did with Huntress. Now, don't quote me on that, but I think we're releasing more. I know certainly that I read a whole short story today, and again, I don't know whether that's an internal thing for theming or whether we're going to release the short story of the history, but we're talking like paragraphs of backstory for this character.
Is there going to be a hype video? Like maybe like a little synopsis?
There's going to be there's going to be the usual hero release videos, as well as I think we're trying to prep a couple more behind the scenes thing, because this is our second original hero. Huntress was awesome, really proud of that, but I think this is an even bigger step forward from a design standpoint, both in terms of the modeling and the art, the theming, the character gameplay. I'm just I think everyone internally is just really excited to get them out.
All right,
I think we're excited too.
So you can't say anything, but what is your favorite thing about the new hero? Without giving it away. Ooh, okay.
That's a spicy answer.
I like it. I was like, man, give me something. All right, and you delivered.
Some of the initial criticisms of some of the characters when Pred first came out were that they were a little stiff, and we've been going back trying to add some more fluidity. The animation work around the abilities for this character, because of the way that they are played, is just so fluid and so clean.
So he's going to be shooting lightning bolts out of his fingers.
I can't. listen, man. I've been in this industry long enough. You're not going to trip me into saying something.
Right?
That'd be cool though. Just have somebody shooting lightning bolts.
I don't understand this question, so I'm hoping when I read it to you, you'll understand it. How much does the inside team established as far as ready to display / load in content once game fully launches?
It sounds like, yeah, so it sounds like how much has the team prepared and has established content already? Like set
for larger release.
Okay.
For a large release, yeah. Like are they sandbagging?
That's great.
Yeah, I got you. So are they sandbagging or are they still kind of working on stuff?
Well, so I don't want to say sandbagging because that implies something other than the goal, but we are stockpiling reserves of really awesome stuff. I know, Bearded, one of the things we talk about a lot is like, show me the kits, show me the art. I think Lizard genuinely is going to be a good expression of the art quality that we're able to do. If you imagine Lizard, when Lizard comes out, pretend Lizard was actually, I don't know, Greystone or whatever.
Okay.
Right.
I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that. Because that's I literally feel like the one thing that's holding Omeda back is their skin game. Like you look at PTO, and PTO just released their patch notes for this week, and they put out some great fucking skits this week. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these skits, and they're fucking all summer related, and it's great. And I've always said they have a great skin game. Always said it. And we're just sitting here with these recolors and these reused epic skins, and it's like I want you guys to show that we have, like, no. Look it, we can do it too. They're not the only ones. That's what I want. I want to be able to flex on them, but we can't flex until that's done.
Lizard is going to be a good example because they were done entirely from scratch, right? We can build Lizard from scratch. We can build something as cool from scratch. But I think there's two realities that I think are important to talk about. So the first is we need to build up the means of pumping out those skins. We need to find the artists. We need to get into the swing of, you know, what do we think works well? What's the level of detail that we need? How do we set our tiering? So there's some learning that's happening behind the scenes. And there's a lot of stuff that we try and we iterate on and then we throw in the bin because we're like, it just doesn't meet our quality bar, but we're learning and we're continuing to improve. So that stuff is all going to be hidden. The other thing is, if we're being honest, new skins are pretty big beats in the game industry, especially if they're really hype stuff. And as much as we appreciate everyone that's playing early access right now, I think if we're being honest, everyone would say, yeah, if you think it's going to be a pretty hype beat, and if you think most of skin purchases happen within the first X period of time of that thing being available, are really, really sick stuff, we want to make sure that we're doing it at a time that is going to be high leverage in terms of getting a good return. Now, I'm not saying we're sandbagging. I'm not saying we don't care about the community, but, you know, we're going to be, you know, we plan on being a free-to-play game. Our revenue is going to be based on our ability to monetize cosmetics. And, you know, we want to make sure the pricing's fair. We're doing some work on our side to make some pricing adjustments and make it a little bit more clear too. But if we want our pricing to be fair, then what we also need is the impact of that thing has to be awesome. We don't want to nickel and dime people, but then therefore we have to make sure that our launch is like really slap. And we're dropping stuff at times that a large portion of a big community is going to engage with and say, this is awesome, buy the skin, and then we're going to be able to continue to fund our development. And those beats are going to be more impactful once we've moved into the console audience and free to play and things like that in the future. It's not that we're sandbagging, but we need to be realistic about making sure we're using our biggest and most powerful beats and drivers of potential future revenue for the company at a point in which we've got the audience that's going to really yield higher returns for us to be able to fund the rest of our development.
So I have an interesting question that Odo actually put in the chat. I'll rephrase it here a little bit. When you look at Lizard, excuse me, what kind of vibe does he give you? Is he like a bearded dragon vibes? Is he like a gecko vibes? Are we talking like my dude's looking like a two-legged iguana walking around? Like, what type of vibes are we getting?
I don't want to say anything about physical design so that people can see the character and go, wow. Anything that I do to put an image in your head is going to undersell. I know Robbie used the same thing, but it's okay. He's my boss. I'm going to steal it from him. Anything I do to try and say anything and put an image in your head is going to undersell the quality of the whole kit. Now, what I will say is the word I will give you is indomitable, because I saw that in an internal thing today and it stood out to me. So y'all can go Google what indomitable means and draw your own ideas about how that might apply to a kit. But
now I got more questions.
Saying,
what?
If he's a bearded dragon, and he's a solo main, like, you know who's gonna be maining that guy, all right? I come on now, we got this. All right, we do gotta call it though, guys. We are over the 2-hour mark. So let's do our outros. This was a great episode. Man, these devs coming on here and putting out this great content for us, I greatly appreciate it. I can't say it enough. But let's the same way we introduce ourselves, let's do an outro with that. So Jshredz, let them know where they can find you, your little information you want to put out to the community. If you want to talk to the devs, even though you talk to the devs, you can put a little shout out to them as well again. And then we'll go Efsixx, Joey, myself, then Windu, and let's close this thing out. A great episode, guys. I'm all about this. Let's keep it up.
Thank you all for having me. This has been a ton of fun. In case it's not obvious, I really just love this game. I love this team. I love this community. So having an opportunity to spend more time talking about it with people who care about it just as much is really a pleasure. You can find me on Reddit at Jshredz on the predecessor Reddit, or Paragon Jshredz on the Paragon Discord. The predecessor Discord. Please don't spam me.
Discord too.
Yeah, you can find me on the. I'm sure I'm still there somewhere. Don't spam me with wild and crazy stuff. But if you genuinely want to talk about the game, have suggestions, have questions, please do hit me up. I love talking with people. I love engaging with ideas, and the community has yielded a lot of great ideas that we've then taken and have adjusted how we're approaching things internally. So just eternally grateful for the support of the community throughout this journey. And look forward to what we're going to be capable of doing in the coming months.
Medkit wants to know, can he send you a meme?
Yeah, man. Do it.
All right. There you go. All right. Efsixx, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, so my name is Efsixx. Before I do all the whole entire outro thing, thanks Jshredz again for coming on. I think you cleared up a lot of stuff on my end of trying to understand like the MMR and like how my matches are going, because I'm a solo queue warrior. But I do appreciate you coming on and a lot of the information you gave. I stream over on Twitch and Kick at Efsixx, same thing. Also Twitter, Efsixx. You can find me there, and then YouTube, the same thing. I do more of like deep dives, like the whole entire nerdy things behind hero kits and like how to play the game. If you guys are interested in that, but other than that, I'm here.
Awesome. I gotta realize before we go to Joey, Lance Cecil asked, cats or dogs, Jshredz?
Oh, dogs. I got a little dog that I absolutely adore.
All right.
Not that cats aren't cool, but like man's best friend. I mean, come on.
There we go. All right, Joey.
Yeah, just yours truly. I do content over YouTube, do commentary, daily gameplay, just having fun with the game, but also showing you guys some really kind of fun builds you can run them around. You guys can also find me on Twitter, where I just kind of try to interact with people a lot more on there, try to be a little bit more myself besides just a content creator. But yeah, thank you again so much, Jshredz, for coming on. It's been like a really awesome, insightful conversation we get to have with you tonight.
All right. And Windu said it in chat. Thank you all for watching. It is so true. We are seeing these numbers grow, not just our live numbers, but our also YouTube numbers, our YouTube short numbers, our YouTube, the full actual show, and the chat numbers. Be people chatting. I know me and Windu, we do our best to go through and try to comment on all of the comments if possible. And at least just say thank you for the support, if at the least, right? So keep on supporting us. We appreciate it. We are growing. We are trying to get more devs on here, as possible. I got a comment in the chat today about getting art people in. I just hit RGSace up. I'm trying to figure out who I should reach out for the art team. So I will figure out who I got to reach out to, and we'll get some people, and we'll get it scheduled up. We'll figure it out. It's going to happen. All right. We want to do what you guys want, but we also want to give you guys a great spot to understand and get to know these devs, like Jshredz coming on here, and you guys get to know that he's actually part of the team and what he does behind the team. That's our point, what we're doing here, but we also want to give the community a platform to explain our issues that we have with the game so that can be fixed, so when we have a better game in the outcome. But as far as myself, I stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all live here on Kick, the Bearded Wolverine. You can find me there. I have been posting shorts and TikToks, one a day, for the past 6-7 days now. I think we're getting up there. I've been getting more active in my YouTube game. So go ahead and check me out there. That's the Bearded Wolverine as well. Like the short, comment on there if you can, help with the algorithm, help get it pushed. Greatly appreciate that. But other than that, I love you guys. It's awesome. I love doing these shows every week. It gets even better. And me and Windu, we're actually doing more. Windu is doing a lot behind the scenes, trying to make this a better process and make it more production. We are working with our own boy Choice Plays, trying to get a better production going on. So we're actually trying to improve this show to make it even more of a show. I've said this before to Robbie about himself, actually. My goal is to get this show right here to be Paragon's community quarter. That's what I want this to be. I want to work with Predecessor. I want to be that. That's my goal. That's my goal. All right. I don't know about everybody else here on this panel, but that's my goal, and that's what we're shooting for. All right. Everybody else, we're going to work for. We're going to do our best. But Windu, on to you.
Spice, bro. I gotta top that. Hold up. Right? Like, damn. Hi guys, I'm Windu. Also known as Windy the Mace, as I was saying earlier. But just want to say a huge thank you to Jshredz and everybody that's been supporting. Like Bearded said, we literally go through every single message, every single DM. When you guys stop by our live streams, we really, really appreciate the support. Do me a favor, make sure that you guys follow the Bearded Wolverine on Kick. We do live stream these Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. every single week, Eastern. And then we do post them the next morning on my YouTube. Just look up Windu the Mace on YouTube and you'll be able to find it. And then I also live stream on there. I transitioned full-time to YouTube, 4K content throughout, trying to make it nice and spicy so the console players can watch on their TVs, you know what I mean? But yeah, we appreciate the support. Keep bringing it on, guys. And I just want to throw a quick little shout out again to not just the devs that have been on the show, like Demande, Jshredzs, etc., but also to the rest of the Predecessor team behind the scenes. Because I gotta say, like, one of my favorite things that I saw in the past week that we kind of glanced over, but I just wanted to touch on it before we end, was little things like, how are you building Twin Blast? Let us know in the comments. Extra points if you post a video or like a clip or something. And you saw Joey posting. You saw like a whole bunch of people up in there. Exclusive Set put his little YouTube video. 12,000 people saw that post. That's awesome community engagement and community growth and intertwining the community. Little things like that I love. And I just want everybody to kind of keep doing what you're doing. And I need somebody to let me know how that first initial PlayStation submission went, bro. I need somebody to be like from the back or something. You know what I mean? Like, right? Yeah. I just want that little bit. Yeah. Just be like, hey, you don't got to tell me what was said. You don't got to tell me what's happening. Don't give me a date right now. I just need from like that meme of the guy that just leans out of his cubicle, like, yeah. We good. We still said it. But yeah, we appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Shout out again, Jshredzs, for being here. Efsixx, welcome again officially. Yeah, get everybody drop a GG, Efsixx, and Jshredzs wherever you're watching, whether it be in the comments, whether it be on the live chat, and drop the GG specifically if you made it this far, because you're a goat if he's still here 2 hours deep, right? And we will catch y'all on the next one. Much love, homies.
Real quick, 1 second. Sorry.
Efsixx.
Efsixx is we're gonna have a little thing with Efsixx. With him coming on, we're gonna start doing a little tips and tricks for you guys to understand MOBAs and 3D MOBA, and to help the people like me get better at this game. And then also, just so you guys know, Joey and I, we're doing our best. We're working with Kari. We're trying to get Kari in here because we know Kari is the people's favorite, people's champ here. We're working on getting Kari in here. So you guys do know we are working on that, and we'll get her here eventually. All right. But on that note, we'll see you all later.
And the pressure begins. Peace.
And the pressure begins.
Peace.